Are we good? Oh, are we good? I think we're good. Oh, are we good? I think we're good. All right, I need you to say some things so I know that your audio levels are not jacked.
All right. Here I am saying things.
All right, I need you to say some things so I know that your audio levels are
Still
not
trying to
jacked.
get to the nitty gritty of this article because Jesus. Here I am saying things. Trying to get to the nitty gritty of this article.
Okay, I think we're. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, I think we're good. It's close. It's better than what it was last time, so I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And I'm recording over here. Is that right? Yes, I am. All right. So, should we go ahead and get this started?
Yeah, we're gonna actually start with an intro this time.
Yeah, we're actually going to start with an intro this
Oh
time.
shit.
Do you want to do the intro?
Progress.
Do you want to do the intro?
Sure, even though we don't have like a specific thing yet. But yeah, sure. All right, so hey world out there, this is another episode of Two Cups of Black Coffee with myself, Alazar, and my friend here, Mo. This is where you get the insight on how we really feel about pretty much what's going on in our lives, pop culture, what's trending, and essentially we see it like we just met up at a coffee shop, two old friends, just catching up and talking about whatever shit we feel like
Yep.
it. Yep.
Oh, great intro. Great intro.
So let's begin. So there's been a lot going on, obviously, so it's hard to catch up on some of these things. But we didn't narrow down our plethora of choices to, I want to say, I guess the biggest one is probably the Kotaku article. You think
Uh,
that one's a good start, or should we move
let's
to something else?
let's start with the Alex Jones and then move into like the big
Oh,
thing
sure.
because that was huge.
Okay, sure. All right. So, well, go ahead. Tell us about that one, Mo. What's going on with Alex Jones?
So, so I apologize. I'm a little flustered. I got off. I just got off work like 45 minutes late. That's an entire thing that I don't even want to go into. So I get fucking off topic. But so I want to say a couple days ago. Was it Tuesday or Monday? I can't remember. No, it'd be Tuesday or Wednesday. Um, Everyone and their mama decided to ban Alex Jones. Is the short
Which
of it.
which is, by the way, except Twitter,
Except
which has
Twitter,
caused a whole backlash for that.
which
But continue.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So it is. I'm trying to find an article, but you would
Oh, I
think.
got one right here
Oh,
for
you
you.
got it. All right. All right. So it was. I know off the top of my head, it was YouTube and Spotify.
And
Eh,
Apple.
Oh, Apple. Oh, so they took off
Mhm.
his podcast. Is that correct?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, well, it's not a full ban. YouTube, I think, is the only one that did a complete ban, where other ones have kind of dipped their toe in, removing certain segments and certain podcasts. Like, I don't think
Right.
it's a full ban from Spotify either,
Okay.
from my
So
understanding.
it was a complete ban from YouTube and
For sure.
Facebook. YouTube and Facebook were the two complete ones, right?
Yeah, I think Facebook was part of that. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Just double checking here. Oh yeah, Facebook. Yep, Facebook announced its ban.
Yep.
Sure. Yep.
And they all cite pretty much the same reasons. It's repeat violations of community standards, which is like if you fan the flames of like racism, any of the phobias, things like that. Hate content is a short way to say it. So if you do a lot of that, um, that's usually a quick ban hammer. And so, I honestly, to me, I was really surprised to see a so many companies, so many so many companies and social media do this all at the same time. That's what really surprised me.
Yep.
The fact that it
I
was,
find that rather suspect.
yeah, yeah,
It's like they were all at a coffee shop talking about Alex Jones, and it's like, you know what? As they sip that cappuccino, we should ban this fool. I think it's time. I think it's time.
yeah, yeah. And let's start with you. What are your opinions on it? given that very short kind of intro to the story?
Um, I mean, it really depends, right? I think the timing is strange. I mean, Alex Jones has been Alex Jones forever at this point, right? I mean,
Yes.
he's done things like specify that like the Sandy Hook thing, the Sandy Hook shooting was like made up. He talked about the shooting in Florida
Yep.
and how like those were child actors. And like, I mean, he's done so many things
Isn't he
that it
the?
feels strange. Hmm?
Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, I was just saying he's done so many things that if any of these companies were really following to enforcing these guidelines, he would have had his wig snatched like years and years and years ago. So I'm just kind of like, what is this really about? You know,
Right.
it's so late in the game, and you know, I feel it sucks because one of the things that that conservative leaning people have tried to done for a long time, whether it's Milo Yiannopoulos or Ben Shapiro or Alex Jones, is the whole viewpoint that there's a lot of suppression of speech if they're conservative ideals,
Hmm.
and there's suppression of their viewpoints and their perspectives. And I might out of all the conspiracy theories Alex Jones has had, I feel like this one really just proves his point. Um,
Yeah.
that they are definitely specifically going after him as like a collective because they're seen to be like left-leaning companies. Um, but the problem here is for me is that it kind of makes them this martyr, and that's what the right has been searching for this whole time. The right has been searching to be the victims in a side where liberals have always claimed victimhood, whether it's of minorities or of something else. The right wants like clear, concrete evidence that they too are victimized in some form or fashion, and
Hmm.
that this just plays right into it. Um, which sucks because I don't want him to be right about anything ever,
Right.
even if even if even if it's right to ban him, you know, which these companies have more than a right to do per their terms of service.
Right.
So this isn't even a legal thing. A lot of people will claim it's a free speech thing or it's slippery slope. Has nothing to do
Which
with the private sector.
right. Don't even get me started on the free
So
speech hook because it's not all about that.
no, it's not. You know, and I mean this is happening across the board for any big company. Is that if there's this association between who you offer these platforms to and who you're represented by.
Hmm.
And I mean it's same thing, with our normal jobs. You know, like wherever we all individually work. If we went online and talked some craziness about whatever, extreme left or extreme
Shit.
right, and then, you know, we had like our business where we work at on our Facebook, and someone found out and it was a big story, you best believe our employer would
Shit.
know.
Right.
And
That's
then all of a sudden, there's this association between the random crap I said, talking about the Earth being flat and hating science, and I work at like a chemistry place,
right.
and now
Sorry.
they're like,
Fuck. No, keep going. I'm fucking trying to change my camera and fuck it. I don't care anymore.
so I mean that's that kind of thing. So I think people like to they like to look at it in the scenario that isn't reflective of even their own issue. Like I
Right.
mean, if you look at most companies, a lot of them talk about like computer usage, social media usage, and what you can say and can't say about the company and what it's doing and releasing information and general representation.
Right.
Like, you know, how you can't speak for the company if it's not your job. Because, like, you know, so it's like these things still apply to everyday jobs for essentially almost everyone. We're just not all big enough to have these giant scoops about us if we said something. But
Right.
I mean, you definitely could say something and be put on blast
Yeah.
because that's the way the internet is now. So this whole like I don't get that part, and I never will because it's a BS argument from the get go. So please, anyone listening, don't say it, don't mention it. Give us something else here. Give us something
Right.
else to talk about. Um, so like I have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of feelings on it in general that tend to be kind of like this side play stuff. But the reality of the situation is he's always had views like this. I don't understand why these companies chose now to do it. I almost feel like it is in preparation for like grooming people for like the election and stuff like that. But for me, at the end of the day, if you're dumb enough to believe even half the shit he says, then you're just too far gone anyway, whether we're silencing him or not. Because you've listened to this man for years anyway. So to me, I don't know, even if it is a big conspiracy, I don't know who or what they think this does, other than probably enrage his base. You know,
right? And
go ahead.
and I mean, I'm with you because I dated someone who was big into InfoWars and disinformation and all this jazz, and I almost drank the Kool-Aid, and then I took some science classes and was like, hold on a minute, some of this don't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So you're all right. He's been doing this for a while, but I think the issue now is that everyone knew that he was a crazy person. I think he was on like AM radio and he had his own little podcast, but it was a very, very small group of people, right? But I think with the advent of social media, he may still have that small group of people, but now his reach is far greater. Thanks to Twitter, thanks to Spotify, thanks to Facebook and things like that, right? And so while I agree, we're a little late to the party, I think that I think it's two things. I think it's one, it's this spread of misinformation. It's a spread of gross misinformation, right?
Sure.
Like,
which he's done for a while too.
Right, like saying the government is using frogs to turn people gay or whatever the fuck that meme is, right? Like that's so far off. That's like, the fuck are you talking about? So there's that extreme of misinformation, and then there's misinformation that climate change doesn't exist or isn't a thing, right? They're two separate things.
Yeah, and I will say, oh god, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to interject real quick, and misinformation now is a big thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Facebook. Yeah, so I will agree that now it's kind of like, it was cute before. He's funny. Now it's kind of like, oh, he has like 7 million followers on Facebook. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that.
Right. And I do fear that this is grooming for the elections coming up here, both for the Senate or both for the House and Senate and for the presidency in another 2 years? Is that right?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm of two different minds of this. It's YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Well, actually, we'll get to Twitter in a moment. Like Spotify and Apple, it's their platform. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, they want to ban it, sure, fine, whatever. I don't have any problem. Well, I don't have any problems with how they police their platform, right? Sure. What bugs me is trying to carve out a certain demographic of politics. That's where I start to like, what are you doing? Because let's be honest, Alex Jones is extreme right? Yeah. There are people on the extreme left that say, anti-vaxxers, for example, are on the extreme left. Yeah. People that protest that GMOs cause cancer, they're extreme on the left. But you don't see Facebook and Spotify starting to delete their stuff. You know what I mean? And granted, like I will admit that Alex Jones is like on a whole nother level. Like the Sandy Hook was fake, frogs turning people gay, everything. Like I'm not comparing the two, but when we do get that amount of crazy on the left, is Facebook going to pull the trigger? Is Spotify going to pull the trigger? Is Apple going to pull the trigger and delete their shit and remove them? Right. So that's one question I have.
Right. And we have to wait till we see it, because I think the other issue here as well is that it's almost kind of like a protecting that slow child that like we know, but like we don't want to hurt. They say weird things, but like because they are that is the left, right?
Yeah.
Also, I mean, that's another thing. The majority of the left doesn't listen to that anyway. Most people on the
Right.
right don't even listen to that. So while I agree, there's definitely a difference in tone. So I think the impact of those opinions, the scope and the amount of people who are in that audience who will believe it, and other things like that. So I think that's why something like Alex Jones being banned with such a big audience that have been doing it forever versus like, you know, Moonlight Summer Glam talking about how she knew someone who was on a
Moonlight
vaccine
Summer
and
Clan.
whatever their name is, right? And so I agree that they are two sides of the same coin, but I think the reality of the way each one is catered to or listened to are heavily different. Because I
Right.
mean, we don't like most mainstream left doesn't even embrace that. So to them, we're just like, LOL, say whatever the hell you want, you stupid bitch. We can give a damn, right? And most of the right's like, this is the left we hate. Look at them. Like, so so they don't have friends anywhere.
Hmm.
Right. So I do feel that like if they didn't want to pull that trigger, it'd be easy for them, honestly, because I mean it's detrimental. It's like it's bad for they definitely could. So when people make that argument of, well, why isn't the left really like hashing out, that group, it's because no one really like they're just not enough of they don't warrant that kind of, and I don't even think they get the viewership like that to even warrant that kind of like reaction. I think like again when you talk about like how like Alex Jones has been doing this before and he had his little group of his little audience. Now there's like 7 million people we have to worry about listening to him
Well, I
say
mean,
stuff versus
so that's an interesting point because well, one, I would want to know because as far as I'm not very right to even begin with, so
sure.
maybe the right treats Alex Jones the same way the left treats Moonwater Glade Theory or whatever the
Excuse
fuck what
me,
her name
get her
was.
name right. Moonwater Game Theory. Just a new subsection. Just a new subsection of like the raving game theory channel.
Oh
Anyway,
my god!
um,
But so I wonder if because they may treat him like that, like we treat what's her face. You know what I mean? I don't know
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um, so and second, I would almost I guess this is mostly personal opinion than anything else,
sure.
but I would almost say the anti-vaxxers and the anti-GMOs are just as bad, if not worse, than Alex Jones because someone who believes that the frogs are turning people gay, in my mind, is less dangerous than a person who believes that vaccines cause autism.
Sure.
You see where I'm going with that because someone who believes that
Yes.
autism or vaccines cause autism doesn't vaccinate their kids. Their kids spreads measles and mumps and then actually kill somebody. Versus some
Yeah.
guy raving about gay frogs. Everyone's like, "Shut the fuck up, you gay frog man!" Like, who cares?
Yeah, but again, I think the difference is the scope of impact that person actually can make on their audience. So for Alex Jones saying this, and of course, there's way more concrete, better examples of horrible things he said.
Right.
But he's speaking to millions and millions and millions of people, where that anti-vaxxer has an audience of 1,000, and
I mean,
and we're not, and again, most of the left isn't even inclined. Like it's about how many people can truly be affected by that ideology or that viewpoint. While Alex Jones has plenty of
oh,
misses in a lot of his stories, it's that's the key. Like I said, like there's probably when he's not doing completely off the wall stuff, he does preach to a general baseline ideology of the right. And there's
okay.
a lot of victimhood on the left. And whether it's fake or whatever, or BS, like, why worry about police brutality when there's black on black crime? Like he sings all the staples. He's
Right.
far more of a big package than just that anti-vaxxer where that's their main thing. Or something like that where
I see where you're coming from.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he's just so much more of a threat when it comes to misinformation and influence overall by who he is and what he plays to than these people on the left that are really just fringe. They're really just fringe outliers that, even even left-leaning people really just don't pay attention to. Where with him, even though he might talk about gay frogs one day, but he can talk about how LeBron is the worst person for acting like the president is bad because he's, he's disrespecting. It's this whole other parallel of a story that people are going to listen to him because of those notes rather than
the ones that would miss for most people anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Down syndrome and vaccines. Down syndrome and vaccines. And that's like all they talk about. And we're like, no, that's wrong. And they never come around with that that thing that like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe you are a person I should listen to when you're not talking about vaccines. Like we don't get that.
Well, I thought about
those people either.
I thought about it not in the opposite way, but a different way. We get anti-vaxxers and GMO people, right? But they're not also saying like they're not white nationalists or they're not they're not they're not dissing LeBron James, or they're not saying like Black Lives Matter sucks. Like you don't, those two ideas aren't connected, right? Whereas with Alex Jones, I mean, I won't say connected, they're not associated with one another. Like Alex Jones is the gay frog man and Nazis, but you don't see someone saying I'm anti-vax and fuck black people. Like that's a very, very rare combination that happens.
Yeah. And again, they don't like, I think that's the other. Well, I think it's a layered issue, but I think when we compare like Alex Jones to those people, we're dealing with very two separate entities in terms of power, scope, influence, the way they play to a certain side and stuff like that.
Right.
Like I don't know of any like left-leaning correspondents or YouTubers who have big audiences that talk about the mainstay left issues and then throw in a little spice of anti-vaxxing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like they have this audience because more often than not, these people are deemed as credible. Mm-hmm. Whether they're preaching, equality for everyone, they're pushing LGBTQIA plus issues. Like, they don't operate in that realm or that scope of encompassing the left. They just are these people who hate vaccines and they hate GMOs, and that's their whole dang life.
Right.
Pushing that agenda while never really riding the coattails of what could make them popular with, because that's the way you get people, right? You throw out a few credible things and then you hit them with the curveball. And they're like, are people being? I licked the frog. Shit, am I gay? And like you're believing it. Because so many other things.
Right, because you've already believed A, B, and C. Why would you doubt D?
Yeah. Or you're more in line to believe those things, therefore. So,
right.
So that's kind of why, like, I don't feel like those things are very equivalent because it's such a gap. And I think that's where a lot of the right-leaning YouTubers and influencers kind of get their power to stay. Because it's kind of like, I agree with a free market. Socialism sucks. The right isn't intolerant or bigoted. Free rights for everyone. I don't want taxes. And then burn all the gays.
Right.
And it's kind of like, and that alone creates that kind of like thing where it's like, he was all the way good up to this part. We're going to ignore this part. Yeah, our cousin Susan does drugs, but we're going to invite her to dinner anyway. We hope she won't steal nothing this time. Like, so I feel that's kind of the difference there, which is why when a lot of people are kind of saying that sort of thing, I'm like, these aren't really the same for a lot of reasons.
Right,
so
okay.
But if they were, I would understand the equivalency. Like, for instance, there are people who are like, fuck white people. This world would be better if they all... people who do say that. Now, they should be banned or removed because they are exciting violence. That's hate speech as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I don't believe the whole thing, you can't be racist against white people. I think that's fucking stupid.
Yeah,
you can. No, you're prejudiced, not racist. Racist, there's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Or reverse racism. It's like, no, that's just racism.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you're trying to tell me that the first count of racism is unfounded and stupid, and because they're being racist against, that's why they're racist, because they're treated that way. I understand that you gave me a more supporting factor as to why they hate white folks. but they're so racist to me, white folks, it just makes a little bit more sense. And it's because they were racist to me first.
Right.
Okay. All right. I get it. But so yeah, I mean, because the big topic of this is always, and I was watching Philip DeFranco, great YouTuber, pretty down the middle, who is now being, attacked because he himself said, if I owned a platform and Alex Jones was on it, I would have banned him forever ago. And that's because Philly D is always someone who's always about getting the truth out and making sure the information is genuine. And he hates liars and he hates misinformation.
Right.
But how dare he want this fool not on his platform? That's against freedom of speech. This is a slippery slope, Philip.
God.
And I'm just like,
oh, God. I want to touch quickly on that freedom of speech. We've touched on it a bunch of times. And I want to... This will be our second episode, right? So I think this was in episode like -1 or -2 that I made this point. So I want to say it one more time. There's people conflate the idea of freedom of speech with the law of freedom of speech. The idea is that I can say whatever I want without consequence. The law says the government cannot arrest me or cannot essentially arrest me or punish me for things that I say within a very narrow scope. Like, you can't yell fire because that incites a riot, or not a riot, a panic. You can't incite violence or things like that, right? There are very, very specific things you cannot do. But for the most part, the government can't touch me, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever I hear, like, you're violating his freedom of speech, 99.9% of the time, they mean you're violating the idea of freedom of speech. Which in it by itself, I don't necessarily agree with, because I work at a blood bank, spoilers. And if I were to say something dumb like homosexuality is transmitted by blood, right? If I were to say some shit like that on my social media, I would be fired with the quickness. Like, there would be no second thoughts. Like,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And I agree with that. Like, because some people may say that your social media isn't a reflection of, like, where you work and things like that, but there are lines that I should cross and shouldn't cross, and that is indeed one of them, right? It's a very, very dense subject that I don't want to get into now, but I did want to point that out, that when people say you're violating freedom of speech, most of the time they mean the idea, which is a whole nother thing that we can go about.
Yeah, that's going to change by person to person, perspective, and what you say that I don't disagree with versus what you do say that I do, and I'm confirmation bias for.
Right. So I wanted to touch on something else. So do you remember Upworthy on Facebook?
Yeah, I still have. Why do I still have them on my Facebook?
You need to unfollow that dumb shit.
Talking about bait click realness.
Yes. So that's what I want to get to. So they were the originators. I don't want to say that. Clickbaiting has always been around in different forms, like in newspapers and everything and things like that, right? Commercials and so on. But they were the ones that, the big ones that were like, you won't believe what happens when X does Y, or like, this happens and that happens, faith in humanity restored. But the link doesn't tell you at all what the fuck is going on in the video or article, right? So they were one of the pioneers of clickbaiting on Facebook. And Facebook turned around and made an algorithm to combat clickbaity articles. If I remember correctly, it has to deal with the amount of time you spent on the link. So usually, if it is a clickbaity article, you click on it, realize it's clickbaity, and then you don't go back, right? But if it's a legit article, you spend some time to read or watch or whatever, right? My issue with that is I don't agree with Facebook doing that. Not because I love clickbaity articles. I fucking hate them with a passion. But by hiding them, you don't teach the public critical thinking about them. You don't, because you're not saying, hey, this is what a clickbait is. This is how it is set up. Here's the knowledge to understand that, so you don't click on them. Instead, they just hide it and say, "Don't worry, child, we got you. You're never to worry about those clickbaity items again." Right? That is what YouTube and Spotify and Apple are essentially doing. They're not they're not giving the public the tools to understand why Alex Jones is batshit crazy. They're saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to listen to that crazy frog gay man again." Right? They're hiding.
Hmm.
They're hiding the they're they're hiding the problem instead of giving us the tools to deal with the problem. If that makes any sense.
Sure, it does. I just, I always think things are a lot more nuanced than that. I do think that's a part of it, but I do feel, while you can blame YouTube and Apple and Spotify, I mean, InfoWars is right there. You can still go and see him. If you really wanted to go down that rabbit hole, you are more than free to. And I also think the problem is here, and why we have, manipulation in the elections from Russia and all these other things, is that people. What's the best way to put it? I want to just say people are dumb, but
it's more nuanced than that.
And well, it is, but it's kind of like we're at the point where fake news is rampant only because no one has ever rampantly decided to be critically thinking about any of it. That's why it's so rampant. Like everyone just clicks on it if it echoes left or right, and I already think that way. You just believe it, and you have
Right.
so few people who are really like. Because I mean, honestly, if everyone was critical of everything that they read, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
And while it's great to flag it and say, by the way, sir, over here on the left, there's a little clip with a bubble saying, "Hi, you just visited fake news." Let me tell you what that means. And there's all these new algorithms now where they're trying to implement. If a link pops up from a site, I know there's one company that's trying to sell this program to all the social media places where it tags the trustworthiness of the source,
Yeah.
and then it explains, like, it gives a tidbit on things they may have lied about or stuff like that, so you can kind of make that decision. But I mean, honestly, in this culture right now where literal facts are lies or attacks, critical thinking is gone, man. Like these people do not want to care about the truth
Yeah.
or the facts. So when people don't care, this is how you get shit like iRobot.
Right.
Where you take the choice. You take the choice. You cannot be trusted with your own health. You don't use your own intelligence, and you don't think with your own brain. So I'm going to give you the chance to not do any of it. Just live your life. And I think that's what we're at now. Because again, to me, with the whole Russian meddling thing, where we're making up hashtag walkaway campaigns and all this stupid shit. If anyone with a brain saw these things, they'd be immediately skeptical and scroll on by it. The way I'm sure you see something, you're like, oh, bye.
Right.
I think that's the problem. And why I agree it'll be better to educate, I still feel we're in a scenario where people are going to play to the sides that they want to play to. And the people who critically think are going to. Now, we could talk about critical thinking not being taught in education and schools.
Right.
And how the right preys on the unintelligent. I mean, there's a reason why when Trump was getting elected, one of the demographics was people who did not graduate high school.
Well, I would push back on that because.
Well, I'm saying if you wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
Could.
Right.
But we don't have to.
Okay, I got you. But the overall concept I get.
Yeah, because again, who teaches you to critically think? Like, where do you start learning that process?
Right.
It's not one day on Facebook when they decided to let you know that this was a spam site. That's not when all of a sudden you get this revelation where the process, the building blocks, the ABCs of fundamental thinking start right here today.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
And like the and that's something I struggle with because, like you mentioned, the thing that a pop up that says, "Hey, this may not be trustworthy," blah 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 blah. That's cute, but it doesn't teach critical thinking. It's another crutch. Like Facebook, the algorithm for Facebook hiding clickbaity things. That's a crutch. Some of the other things to try to hide fake news and things like that. That's a crutch, and
Sure.
and it's scary but where do you like like how do you combat Alex Jones? How do you combat God, what was her name? Winterwater Gladewing? Whatever her name.
He's just an amazing battle. Blizzard really doing that.
Right, right. But I mean, let's segue into that. Like, Alex Jones got banned. Uh, I don't, I
The
don't.
question is, how do we teach people to? I guess what you're saying is, how do we teach people to stay away from sources like this,
Right, like from the left and
and then
from the left and from the right,
yeah,
and I'm not saying bring it down to zero because it's going to be a non-zero number of
yeah.
people who will follow Alex Jones or Glade Wildwing, whatever the fuck her name is. That keeps changing
I
like
just like
every
that
30
Glade
seconds.
Wild Wing. It's like a new scent from Glade itself, like their air freshener. Wild Wing,
Oh my
yes,
god! But what do you think? How do we inoculate people from this dumbassery?
sure. So I think the first thing with all things, and this is just my sales side coming in because of a salesman, is do you care? Do you care that you're being fed false information?
Mm.
And if you do, what steps do you typically take to find better sites? Like, are you a person that listens to Alex Jones and then you double check it on Fox or you double check it on another site? Do you try to find other things that replicate it and then you believe it? Like, do you already not care? And I think the problem here is that with certain people like Alex Jones and certain other people, there's a very arbitrary black and whiteness to both sides, and they're flipped. Um, and
Wait, what do you mean by that?
in other words, there's kind of like hard lines in the sand between what's right and what's wrong.
Okay.
And um, you are more inclined to play to what the base thinks is right or wrong versus what is really truly right or wrong.
Okay, I got you.
So I think that's kind of like the first problem is you're telling me that he's wrong or that a lot of his stuff is false. I don't
Hmm.
believe you. Like, see, like that's kind of the thing.
Right.
Like the people who follow him, as long as they have, will see that and they'll go, "This is an attack on Alex Jones." I knew they were like, like it would automatically be this, just kind of like this backlash, this
Hmm.
like inherent, just disgusted. How dare you? I know he's right. And in some cases, some people think you telling me he's wrong means he's more right.
Oh,
Like,
because of course you would say that because you're the inside man and you would lead me astray. But Alex Jones, he'll show me the light, right?
yeah. So it's just like we're just in this weird thing where we got to peel back a lot of stuff before we even talk about, getting people to critically think again. We got to
Right.
get people to get to the point where they're okay with being wrong. I think that's the
Yes,
first thing we have to do.
I
And
agree.
like we have to get people being back to it's okay if you're wrong on this topic. It's okay
Hmm.
if you don't understand this thing well. And I think this is one thing that could be argued that has been to the left's dismay in the past is
Hmm.
that the left tends to be very elitist in its knowledge and in what it feels it knows.
Right.
And you'll get people who do generally ask questions or they'll offer a viewpoint and it's not combative, it's not all knowing, it's just what they feel they know at that moment. And you have to take that, no girl, let me sit you down. Let me give you this hot thing of tea because I'm going to share something. Like so it's okay that they learned that they're wrong, but now they have that stepping stone to understanding that, oh, I can be right. Or more so,
Hmm.
the side that I subscribe to isn't infallible, which is
Right.
kind of where we're at. Though I think the right feels is probably more infallible than the left because the left will eat its own for days. Like it will eat its own for days if it doesn't follow the scripture
Right.
of the Democratic Bible. All right, idealism everywhere. But so I think that's where we have to start. It's okay to be wrong, and sometimes you are like right now. All the news sites on Facebook that post is one. Like I remember, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, but someone had posted something from a site saying, how dare Trump say he has respect for the military, but he's like getting rid of the current VA program
Right. Oh
to
yeah.
replace it with a new VA program. But no one talked about that. And someone just posted it. They're like, no, it's true. He's changing the program. This is what happens when you change healthcare companies. You cancel the old one, you start up the new one. And for me, I'm like, oh, that's right. He's not against it. And for me, I'm done.
Yeah.
But for everyone else, they're still stuck on the fact that he canceled it. And, that's kind of where that manipulation comes in, because no one wanted to go that extra step. No one wanted to take the time to think just a little bit more about it, or click another article to double check it. They took that headline, or they took that meme, or they took that initial article and they rolled with it.
They didn't ask the next question, which is why. And I think that's where you start with the skeptical thinking is take that extra step. Trump wants to get rid of this. Okay, why? Because then usually that next step gives you an answer. God, I had a good example and it just left me. But yeah, so there was a couple of years ago, NPR did an April Fool's joke, and this isn't exactly what it said, but you'll get the overall idea why they did it. And so it was like it was like 20% of people don't read books or something like that, or like the most intelligent people don't read books, right? Something very, very outlandish, and it had an article, right? And so if you click the link said April Fools, but do not tell anyone else about this joke, right? Yeah. And so if you go back and look at the Facebook page where this is listed, everyone, all they did was they just read the headline. They didn't click the link.
And they're all arguing.
Arguing about it, yes. And this happens rampantly on Reddit. And like, I'm relatively new to Reddit. Like, I peruse it for like Magic the Gathering, League of Legends, and just little things that I'm really into. Like, I don't do like the news and other things like that, right? But even then, like, especially on the League of Legends subreddit, like, it'll be a video of a pro player, and he'll say something like, fuck League of Legends, for example. And so when they post that video in the Reddit, it'll be like, so-and-so player says, fuck League of Legends. But if you watch the video, it says, like, fuck League of Legends because they did something very, very bad and were very, very sexist, right? So the reason,
or there's this bug that killed me, League of Legends for not fixing it.
Right, exactly. But no one else even read it. They just read the title and was like, here's my opinion on this headline. And it's like, good job on your opinion on the headline, but you totally missed the point of the article.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hard one to fix because of how social media has evolved. Specifically in Twitter, you used to only have 150 characters, now you have 240. But even then, you have to convey a lot of information in a very small space, and that kind of goes for Facebook too. Like, I can't write a fucking 10-page article on my Facebook wall, so it would be like TLDR, right? So I guess getting people I guess the first step is getting people to read the entire article or the entire thing. And then the second thing is to ask why or what. Or ask just one more question, because usually that one more question gets you either an answer or it gets you something that doesn't make sense. And then you have to say, well, why is this? And then you go down the rabbit hole until you get an answer, right? I think we live in a society now where people don't want to take that extra step. Like, I think on YouTube, for example, many YouTubers, if you want to know why YouTube videos are usually 10 minutes, it's because people will stop watching after 10 minutes. Like, that's just, for whatever reason, 10 minutes is the max. Unless it's something really good. Like, I was watching The Game Theorist, and he did his final theory on Five Nights at Freddy's, right? That bitch was like an hour long, but it was split up into 3 separate episodes, just made it like 20 minutes each. But I was invested in it, right? So unless it's something you're really invested in, you're not going to watch more than 10 minutes. And that's a shocking thing to think about our culture, is that if we don't want to give away more than 10 minutes of our time, that means that you don't want to click that extra article. That means you don't want to do an extra 10 minutes of research. And that's honestly really scary.
Yeah, and that's what bugs me too, because both of these political spectrums like to say say, pretend, or act as though they care about something.
Mm-hmm.
They care about XYZ topics. And you have these people who subscribe to these spectrums. But to me, and that's my thing. Did I talk about this last episode? I was talking about some guy. Was it with you? I don't know. This guy had like one of those Did I talk about the Facebook quizzes and the colors and like?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And said that before, and I said it again, and that's why I get so just like rampant, because I can tell how quickly you care about this topic by the depth of knowledge you have on it, the research you've done on it, and your ability to look at it. And that's, I think, my biggest issue with both sides right now, is that everyone is saying that they care, and everyone is hopping on Facebook to talk about whatever. And it's so easy to see that no one actually really cares here, because
right.
that damn person has looked into it. Because if both of you bitches did, we would all be on the same fucking answer.
Right.
So, like, that's the thing that kills me the most, of why, like, I'm so quick to just, like, snap on people. Because I'm like, your dumbass didn't look at this shit at all. Shut the fuck up. Like, and I've become that elitist person very quickly, because I just know that you didn't. But if you give me a lot of information, if you give me sources, if you explain your thought process, and you do all these things, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. And I'm not going to snap your head off. And if you're so wrong, I understand how you got there.
Right.
But that's the thing. Sites are saying they care about this, and Trump is saying he cares about this, and all these things. And I'm like, one really does. And I feel like that's kind of the problem here too, especially on the left. Is the left has all these idealistic things they quote unquote care about, but we can't get out the vote. And that's the only thing we need to do. Can't do that. But I can spend 8 hours every day on Facebook bitching. Not researching any of the shit I looked into either.
Right.
Just posting something that George Takei said, or reposting what Bernie Sanders said last.
Oh my God!
And it's just
it pains me to say that you're right, because I see the exact same thing, especially on Twitter, which I can't remember if this is on like the negative episode or not. But anyway, Twitter amazes me because everyone's angry, but I don't know why, because I only hear half the story and no one cares to explain. So I'm just like, okay. But yeah, because it's always like just retweets of like, it's retweets of things that I agree with most of the time. Like we talked about like the no cops at Pride, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't agree with that.
All the better to shoot your gay asses.
Right.
That's why there's no cops at Pride.
I know when Jerry Ryan wakes up because she won't retweet anything until like she gets her phone, and it's just like retweet, and it's like you're retweeting things that I agree with, but you haven't. Just the fact that you're on my side isn't enough. Like, okay, why exactly? Why?
Yeah.
And
do you even know about this, Jerry? Did you examine this first? Did you look at sources and then you were like, this is good enough to retweet? Or did you just see it, say, oh, yep, I think that too, and just boop?
Yep.
And I mean, this is how we get all the misinformation spreading.
Yep.
Because it plays to that base. We don't have the time or energy to dig deeper into the things we say we care about. And then we just vomit out this bullshit just endlessly all the time. But again, and this is the other problem too, because for me, because you were like, how does Facebook fix this, or how do these social media sites fix this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's their job to assist you in critical thinking. Like, critical thinking is something that you should be doing your entire life in everything, not just what you examine or read off of Facebook. It's about how you deal with people and interactions with people and scenario. Like, critical thinking is such a everyday needed thing in your life that you should have. So, and it's a lot to ask Facebook to be like, can you teach
right. So let's go back to that. So I agree. It's not Facebook's job. It's not Twitter's job. Oh, we need to touch on that kind of thing really quick. But I'm coming to finish this thought.
It's real quick. Did you read about it? Because it's just real quick.
I did. Oh, all right, let's go through it.
Okay.
You leaks. I don't have the article pulled up because I am a bad podcaster. But so there is a critical social media platform that did not ban Alex Jones, and that is Twitter. Oh wait, I click on it right here. Pretty much what it boils down to is they say that Infowars hasn't violated our rules. Is the quick and dirty. They're saying that Infowars has not violated their terms of service, whereas that's the basis that everyone else has removed his content.
Right. But long story short, Twitter's not having it. That's the as simple as it is. Everyone else is hating on Twitter for not having done the same. But again, like, and I knew this was the issue because someone else had mentioned it, and I'm like, it's as simple as that. If Twitter feels that they haven't, then that's the end all. Like, that's it. And to be fair, I'm kind of like, I'm sure there is a tweet somewhere from him saying something dumb as hell. But do you want to go through all of that? No. And that's the problem with these bitches, so they lazy as hell too.
And I want to full disclosure. That there is an article. I have not reviewed each and every, like you mentioned, I've reviewed each and every Alex Jones thing that he said on Twitter. I'm sure somebody has out there. Like, there's an article that kind of goes down on it. That's not what I meant. There's an article that there's an article that goes through that, and I haven't read the article either. Full disclosure, but I'm in agreement with you. If assuming nothing dirty comes out, from this. If Twitter says he hasn't violated our terms of service, and it's not a contradiction, because given that the algorithms that YouTube and everyone else uses, sometimes things get caught in the crossfire. Like, for example, Tumblr, they were flagging things as not safe for work, or so you had to actually log in and turn safe mode off, right, to view certain content. Except anything that was labeled gay, despite what it was labeled as not safe for work. And so it was this blanket thing, and everyone was like, Tumblr's homophobic, blah, blah, blah. And Tumblr's like, no, our bad. Like, we'll fix it. Like, it wasn't us. The gays are good. It's just that our algorithm is a little wonky, right?
Right.
So if they can show that he hasn't violated terms of service and other things of similar caliber have not been removed from Facebook, then sure. Oh, not Facebook, Twitter. Yeah. Then sure. That argument is valid.
Yeah.
And there are other things. There are other things like they're saying, like, oh, the owner of Twitter is on the right, and of course he's not going to remove someone who agrees with him, and blah 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 blah. And there's all these other quoting fingers conspiracy theories that I haven't looked into, but that's the general vibe. The backlash I'm getting from this.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? He may very well be. And I mean, again, that leads to the whole idea where these other platforms are fine axing his opinions because maybe he is right leaning, and we don't go after other people for it's there's so many layers to it all. But I'm of the viewpoint or idea that you say he hasn't. But considering how long it takes all you fucktards to ever really do anything about anything,
right?
I'm pretty sure he has.
Yeah.
And long story short is that you have not. No one at Twitter has reviewed everything he said.
Yeah.
Because at the bare minimum, I'm sure he has links to segments or podcasts where he does make various. So I'm kind of like, I don't buy it because this is what you guys do. You say things like this off the cuff. And then that's how you get the adpocalypse, because no one's reviewed anything.
Adpocalypse.
Well, that's what they call it on YouTube, where Johnson & Johnson is on this like right-wing conservative white nationalist channel talking about burning the gays.
Oh yeah, and that's right.
Johnson & Johnson wants to pull their ads because you have them being like. They don't do their due diligence. And that's my biggest issue with this whole thing. It's like, you guys are acting like you're doing this now for your due diligence, but you're not. There's some sort of other motive or agenda.
And actually, I would boil it down to they're just too big. Like YouTube,
Yeah.
all the platforms are humongous. Like, of
Sure.
course, things are gonna fly under the they're gonna fly under the radar, and we
Yeah.
can't. So you can't say Alex Jones hasn't done anything because you're right. I'm sure he's done something that has
Yeah.
violated your T's and C's, right? And
I'm
so
pretty sure.
instead of Twitter saying he hasn't done this, which I will give Twitter the benefit of the doubt for now. Like, okay, let's assume that is true.
Sure.
But you better go through the tapes, or yeah, go through the tapes and
Yeah.
say, yeah, okay, either he
Yeah.
did or he
Give
didn't.
me the receipts because I'm
R-
sure the internet will find them for you.
Oh fuck
And
yeah,
return your statements.
right.
They will be at customer service when the store opens, returning your statement.
And
And I'm sure we'll find them too.
I would much rather Twitter say, well, no, they can't really say that. They could say like we're investigating or something. I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
it needs to be as simple as that.
yeah. I was gonna say that because it, if even if Twitter doesn't feel that his content is worthy of being, so there's the idea that's saying like if I'm the owner of Twitter and let's say I'm friends with Alex Jones, right? There's the idea that I don't think his content is offensive because I agree with it, and then there's the terms of service which say even if you agree with his ideas, they're still against the terms of service, right? And
Sure.
so now there's this contradiction, seemingly contradiction, that I want to see how it plays out because there's some
Sure.
evidence to show that the owner is pretty right to begin with. Okay,
Right.
let me rephrase that. Not pretty right. That some of the things that Alex Jones has said, the owner may be in agreement with. I don't know what
Sure.
things they are, but there's something in there that he agrees with, right? Or else this probably wouldn't have happened. And even then, Twitter has gone out and removed other similar
I mean,
things.
yeah, we've banned Milo Yiannopoulos from Twitter.
Right,
I don't know if
right,
he ever got reinstated, but that was a big one. He got
right.
banned. But that was primarily for the belief that he incited attacks against the woman who was the actress on the reboot of Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember what her
Yeah,
name
so I
is.
mean, they say he did that. So I mean, and I mean, for all we know, that could have been just Twitter's out for finally getting him off. Like who knows?
Right, right. Like, so I
Um,
mean, so let's take that for example. Like, I'm pretty sure Twitter wouldn't have removed him if there weren't this uproar about Myopolis doing that in the first place, right?
yeah,
So now there's this outcry for Alex Jones, and now they're all of a sudden they're like, I don't know. Let me think about it, right? So what's the difference in these two situations?
exactly. And like you said, it proves to be possibly personal, and we'll see. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the internet will find your receipts, CEO Jack Dorsey. They will find the receipts, and they will post those receipts with your terms of service. Like no one reads it, but they'll read it now. Just so they can have just so they can have the side by side comparison, because this is what the internet does now.
Right, because God knows you don't have any. God knows we have too much time on our hands on the internet.
Pretty much.
All right,
But
should we go ahead and swing over to our next topic?
yes, because Alex Jones, that was almost an hour long topic there.
That was. All right, so I mentioned League of Legends multiple
Yeah.
times throughout this. Um, Spoilers, I'm fucking terrible at the game. I am below bronze tier, What did you call it?
Oh, Wood
A
5.
wood 5. Yep. Plastic. That's
Plastic
plastic
4.
tier.
Asbestos 10. Thanks, Trump.
But I do enjoy watching it. The LCS, LCK, the EU LCS. It's a good game to watch, right? It's one of the few esports that I can actually sit down and understand what the fuck's going on, right? They've been around for 9 years, I want to say. They've been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because they're in season 8, but they didn't start their seasons, like, immediately, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
so a Kotaku article has come out this thing is massive. I'll have to link it in the description of the video. But the TLDR is there has been a history of sexism and bigotry and
And
all
bro culture.
bro culture all up and
Bro
down
culture. That
in
is a term here.
yes all up and down Riot Games. And it is a very, 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 very long article. Um, um, Kotaku goes out of their way. Normally, when I say Kotaku article, I'm like, I don't know. Just like when that writer for not D2, Guild Wars 2, got fired because of things she said on Twitter. Um, I was very much against how Kotaku. Well, actually, a lot of people reported it, but especially how Kotaku reported it. So I looked at this with kind of like a skeptical eye. But as you read, they went out. This has been going on for 6 months. I want to say 6 to 7 months that they've been going through the story. They've gotten
Yeah.
statements from women that were within Riot Games that were in and out. It's a very, very long story, and the bro comment or the bro community comment is very apt in this article.
Hmm.
Um, so if you want to pause it and come back, because like I said, it's a very in-depth article. It's super long, so pause this, read it, then come back. Um,
Yeah. Because
what?
we're about to say some things that we've just I just can't even remember everything I read on it. So
Right. So the one thing that stuck out to me, I think you're in agreement also, is the way they hired for people at Riot. Um, there's a good chunk of this article that explains that they wanted gamers and only gamers because they figure that gamers would have the passion to work for the company and the gamers know what gamers want, so on and so on, right? That was kind of
correct.
their philosophy when they were
Yeah.
hiring people, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And then
and
unknowingly, that piggybacks on the sexist culture.
yep.
Because in gaming, more often than not, girls are considered to not be hardcore gamers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the beginning of a beautiful sexist relationship. Or so the article heavily leans on, which I do appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
It does try to it tries to explain that that's the stepping stone to a lot of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Is that very basis, and they talk about, and I mean that seems pretty legit. That if you're not a gamer, get the hell out of here.
Right.
I was even reading something called and that because of that culture, the culture is so important and prevalent in your time there as like working. That I even saw. Did you read the part where they have something called a Q dodge? Did you read that part?
Refresh my memory because I've read it, but I don't remember what it
Okay.
was.
So long story short, if while working there, if Riot deems you don't fit the culture, they'll give you like a severance up to
Oh yeah, that's
like
right.
10% of your annual salary for you to leave to leave the company.
Which so in not in their well, okay, and for this particular section, in their defense, that I get
Sure.
because you can be really because this happens a lot in like software engineering and programming and shit. You can be the top, you can be the best programmer ever, but if your attitude is shit, nobody wants to work
Oh, for
for
sure.
you, right? And so,
Oh yeah,
if
absolutely.
in that framework, I can understand why that exists. But but the ways that they use it, I don't agree with.
Right. And because the culture is what it is, painted by this article to be so heavily male geared and hyper focused on, gaming and not just and that's the other part, not just gaming in general. Like a girl like the way this article sounds, a girl could definitely not get a job at Riot playing just The Sims.
Right, right.
Like or Mario or something. She needs to be like 70 hours plus a week raiding and WoW, and
Right.
top 20 in Call of Duty or
Right,
something
and
crazy.
even then, there's a lady who applied, and they didn't believe that she like rated pretty much 24/7. Like she had to prove the like they quiz her like, oh yeah, what's the trinket doing? She was like, it's this trinket and it does this and gives you these stats and blah blah blah. Like they hella grilled her because
Yeah.
they thought that she was a girl and that she didn't know what she was talking about. Hold on a second, it's
Yep.
getting really dark in here. I got to turn on some lights because soon y'all won't be able to see my black ass.
That's right. They call it shadow melding. So yeah, as he was saying, I would definitely go ahead and take a look at the article. The way it's kind of set up, there's definitely possibilities for the article to kind of be flamed. Um, because what's interesting about the article and a lot of allegations like this, where first off, this is nothing new for tech companies of like
Right.
any stature. I mean,
Yeah.
Google just got done getting smacked the hell over its issues,
Oh my God,
with like,
that's a whole nother story. Fuck.
right. So,
Right.
this goes to show that even mega places like Google have issues, despite
Mm-hmm.
the variety of diversity things they're, shooting for. But where do I go with this? Because I have so many feelings on this article, and the thing is, I'm not even done completely yet, and there's so much to talk about. Um, so what's your general take on it before I start rambling? Overall, I mean, is this something that's not? Because to me, at base, before I continue, is that this doesn't surprise me. What can I say? This doesn't really surprise me.
It
Um,
it it surprises me that it was this rampant at such a big company. Like
okay,
for example, me and you went to UAT, right? And that the kind of behavior that is exhibited at Riot is something I don't atone, but I would see all the time at UAT because it is mostly
sure,
male dominated, male, white, cis dominated culture, right? For
sure,
a multitude of reasons, right?
right,
So the fact that it happened doesn't surprise me. The fact that it happened at such a big company and has been so rampant, and this is the first time that we're hearing about it after 8, 9 years, that's what's surprising to me.
hmm
And I get the fact that the victims aren't comfortable coming forward because they fear for their job. No, no, not only at Riot, but they fear it their future perspective, so they don't tell anyone. So I get
right,
why that happened, but I'm surprised that it happened this long and a whistleblower hasn't come forward, right?
sure,
After saying all that, um, assuming that this is all true and there's enough evidence for me to say, okay, Riot, what's up? Like multiple people have
yeah,
come out. All the evidence from Kotaku was like, okay, I can see it.
yeah,
What do you have to say for yourself, Riot? Right? And of course, the only statement I think uh, since today is we're investigating, right? Um,
Oh, I
but
haven't even seen like the immediate response
yeah,
from
I mean,
Riot.
it was a typical we're investigating it, and we foster a safe work environment, blah 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 PR talk, right? Like it's par for the course.
Yeah,
Um, it's disappointing because it's for various reasons. Uh, the gaming culture and software engineering, programming, things like that. We have this problem where people don't know how to act in public. You know what I mean? I mean,
sure.
it, um, and like it's okay. So it's weird that this went on for so long. It's even weirder that nobody in Riot thought this was bad. Like, okay, I'll give you a couple of years. You're a fledgling company, got that bro community because all your friends got together and made this awesome game that exploded. So you're a little wet behind the ears. You don't know what to do or how to act,
Sure.
right? But this is year 8 or 9 of this game. HR didn't come up and say, "Hey, this probably should stop," or CEOs or COOs, or you know what I mean. No one up top thought this was a bad idea. No one up top thought that we shouldn't act this way. That's what's really surprising to me.
Well, it seems like what's the best way? Like it seems like they did well because there's a part of the article that goes into a woman who works there, so she's like one of the senior
Hmm.
employees there, and the journalist that wrote this got a lot of feedback from her specifically about things, and she heads the diversity and inclusion aspect of the company that focuses on like trying to break down the what's the best way to put it, like break down the whole like hardcore gaming culture thing
Hmm.
from being like, oh, hardcore gaming means this versus this. They've tried to like do training interviews, excuse me, training for interviews to make sure
Right.
like we're not like using certain gendered phrases and like, so I mean it's there. But one of the quotes at the end of all that is an employee goes, well, you can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, and this goes back to a classic thing that I find really interesting, even with the whole culture fit thing that Riot does. This is like you said, conceptually it makes sense to me, and typically that's one thing that most companies don't even look for, right? Like you have like all these tech companies that are like crazy liberal, hiring like the most conservative, right wing, hating of people of color, people ever, based on merit. And like he would be fine with all of his co-workers who are people of color being lynched. But he's a great worker.
Right.
It's interesting that happened. So I think the problem here is that it probably grew too big, it grew too fast, and even with this kind of like initiation, you have people who've done this and acted this way for years and years now, right?
Hmm.
Like you've had people who've been bred in this culture that has been created, and they're not going to change easily. And in many cases, they probably have been supported to continue to do these things by either the colleagues or the atmosphere or the culture of the place, which kind of boils down to the fact that the only way for Riot to truly fix it is probably to clean shop,
Yep.
and there's no way they can survive and do that. Um, so like it's one of these things where it's kind of like you could say it's too little, too late. Um, but you also can't discredit them for attempting to do these things because they are trying. And now we're kind of relying on the employees individually to all take this to heart, do their best to adapt, do their best to change, and to be different.
I would
And
I would agree if so I mean you are right. In the article they do have a lady there that is for the cultural diversity of the company, right? I will give them that credit. Um
I mean,
but
there's other things obviously
w-
bad,
w-
like when women report it, not responding the correct way. You know,
right.
there's a lot. Yeah,
Right. But the next taking that next step is okay, you've got this in place, like did you do it like yesterday? How long was it in place? Is it working? Because if you implemented this year two now it's year 8 or 9, obviously it's not working, right?
sure.
So there are more questions that I ask. Like at this point, I'm not giving Riot the benefit of the doubt. Like, sure, they have this thing that they're this diversity person there. Sure, good job, but is it working? Like in my eyes, well, with the information I have so far, it's not. Um,
Right.
so
But
it.
that's but
No, no, go for it.
no, I was saying, but that's why, because again, like I said, and this is just my whole sales mentality part of me is it's like you tell these guys these things. They've done it for because I think they said she may have started like maybe 2, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
I think so. I think that's roughly the timeline that she's had to try something, right?
Right.
Um, and then you have the question: just how far is her reach? How often does she do these trainings? You know, because I mean, how many times have we all sat in a training at work or a meeting? They told us some shit and we did not give a single hell about it.
Right.
Right. So, and that's kind of like, I'm just being as real about it as possible. That woman could try like 20 different ways to engage these people and make them change. And if these are the type of people that are hired, which again, you could say this, you know, exacerbates the issue because we are hiring those hardcore gamers. And, you know, even in this article, it specifies that Riot will actually get rid of employees who play League that have high toxicity levels. So what I'm getting at is everything about this from the foundation is just a bad start.
So you remind me of something. So recently, not recently, let's say 6 months ago, I can't remember the exact time frame. There was a guy called Tyler One who who has been banned from League for being toxic, right? And so he was like permaban hammered. And then at one point in time, Riot gave him the option to be rehabilitated. They said, okay, you can play League again, but we're watching you. And if you show that you're a good person and you're not a dumb shit, we'll let you start playing again. So we went through this habilitation process, right? And I want to say toward the end of it, a person who works at Riot, under the Riot name on Discord, like they were affiliated with Riot when they said this. They were pretty much like, well, I hope he like gets testicular cancer and dies, or just some horrible shit about this dude, right? Who's legit trying to not be toxic and to, you know, get back into the game. So after that got out on Reddit, he was fired for being toxic, right? So it's like, okay, good job. Everyone's like, yeah, right, you did an excellent job. And then this comes out, and everyone's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess just like I said, what I'm getting at is there are a variety of sexist traits, habits, and things the hardcore gaming community does at base when it comes to women and sexism. And then your goal is to hire those same people, not assuming that they'd carry the same habits into the fucking workplace. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It is not a surprise to me that this is the culture bred by hiring people who probably act like this every day when they're online.
So that's a good question. Why do you think that is? Like what? Like because for me and you, we shouldn't think this way. But of course, me and you think, of course. Like our first thought is, of course, this is how gaming culture is, and that's unfortunate to say. But why do you think that? How do we get to this point? I guess is a good question. Like, what do you think?
You mean gaming culture in general?
Yeah.
With the way it feels like, oh, this is just this. We talking about another 2 hours on this topic.
I mean, we're already an hour from Alex Jones.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. Well, I mean, that was a big story, so it probably deserved that time, really. You know, it's interesting because, you know, I don't even know where to begin because there's so many things, right? Like, so let's think about it. Off the top of my head, when I think about a girl that I know who's a gamer that's respected by male gamers, who is she? Like, what is her personality type? Usually, she's a tomboy. She exudes all these male characteristics. She's on here bitching and cursing and complaining and destroying and wrecking and saying all the most standard terms you expect of any other gamer, bro.
Right.
And they're usually okay. And they're usually like, oh, and she's hot too. That's cool. You know, something like that. But like, you know, so it's, and then of course, if she's playing the same games you're playing, then it's like, oh, even better. She plays shooters. And like, I don't know. I feel like girls have to go through like this additional, and I mean, it's proven in this story that girls have to go through these additional verification steps of their gamer street cred
Right.
before they can have it. And I think it also goes into just like old school gender based hobbies. For a long time, games in and of itself weren't considered things that girls did or
Right.
girls played. If there was video games, you bought boys' video games. It was a very long time before girls got their own video games. And normally, if they did, it was Barbie Magical Sunset or like Spice Girls or like these other things that were like very, very specific to girls.
Hmm.
And it dealt with the most girlyish things like dress up and fashion and like all this other stuff. And we got this very hard divide of, do girls even play video games? Most likely no. But if they do, it's some bullshit. Like,
Right.
that's the way men like saw it. And it's been like that for a long time. And I think it's hard for guys to get over it. I think it's hard for all men to understand like we're kind of past that point. But
Hmm.
it's also at the same time it's still almost like that's where we get the nuance thing where it's not true, but it's still true in certain cases when it comes to like what do girls play, what do girls like versus what guys like.
Hmm.
For girls, I think that one study specified that girls care about completion. And when it comes to completion, that's usually like single player games or
Yeah.
RPGs or something like that. And why guys love that too. For guys, it's about killing other people. Like it's about murdering someone.
Yeah.
Screw completion. It's about I'm going on the line and I'm wrecking some people. And guys have always geared towards being that. And it's hard for them to just accept that type. I think it's gonna be a very long time to accept that type of gamer until unfortunately a business is open to bringing them in, a girl that's like that, and two, the girl unfortunately having to go through the steps to offer that kind of street cred. Like for instance, my favorite commentator on all of the like pro league stuff is that girl.
Oh, Indiana Frostgurn.
She wrecks all the time, and it's pretty clear she's smarter than most of these fools.
Right.
And it's this thing where it's like it's this weird thing, and this goes for any minority group, whether it's people of color, certain religious groups, women. You've got to be that one to put the face to the credit.
Yeah.
And me looking at her, she doesn't.
Mhm.
She has never paled me as someone who is not a hardcore gamer and will destroy my ass at League of Legends any time of the day. And she has that respect,
Right.
right? And we need more of that, and we need to see that more. And someone Twitch has given outlet for some of those girls to come out the woodwork, but then there's a whole thing about sexism on Twitch. I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole, and titties everywhere, and it's just like this whole other thing. And fake, that's talking about fake gaming.
Right.
Twitch is a huge one that has proposed that essentially women are fake gamers, right?
Right.
Like, oh man, talk about Twitch's impact. I can almost blame Twitch for a large part of it, really.
Right.
With like Casey Tron, who is just a parody of it. And I love Casey Tron, but that idea. So, even now, again, like I said, in this day and age, we do have some girls who are real at it and good. And then you watch Twitch and, some of the girl gamers you see seem like anything but.
Right.
And then the other problem is too, and that, not to go on a whole Twitch thing about it because it's an old story, but a lot of these girls are the most popular one. So the face of girl gaming is a fake gamer.
Right.
Right? So then it's just like all the guys are like, oh, I told you, play girl. Her tier is only as good as her titty size. What is she? D tier? C tier?
Oh
so
my
it's just
God.
so it's just this thing, right?
Her tier is only as good as her titty size. Oh my God. Because it was like, I don't get it. And then I got it. And then I realized how bad it was.
By the way, that's something I saw someone say.
Oh my God.
But I mean, that's where we are. So again, it's really going to take these It's going to take, for one, the men who are open, that have the power, that are in positions that can showcase these talents, to do so with these girls. And then, unfortunately, it's all about exposure over time. Ram them in our freaking faces.
Yeah.
There's going to be backlash. People are going to be mad. People are still mad that one girl commentator is on League. Every time you watch it on Twitch, anytime she says anything, people just spam that girl emoticon.
Oh my god, yeah.
Attempting to like shush her out.
As if she can like see the Twitch chat first of all. Like, really?
Right? Yeah, but I mean, so we still live in that, that time frame. Same thing when we talked about Hearthstone, when the one championship guy was black.
Oh yeah.
And the response, to him, black man playing Hearthstone, this N-word, black man playing game. Because, honestly, when you think about like people of color in gaming that are proficient or professionals, there's only one genre of game I know where they're in mass, and that's fighting games. In fighting game, there's a ton of black folks.
Yep.
But like in like RPGs or like, completionists, speed runs, and all this other stuff, you don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows people to continue going with the notion that this is another, male-dominated, Caucasian-dominated, cisgender-dominated realm.
Right. When in actuality, it's a lot more nuanced. Like, we were talking about, on the Secret High Level podcast, we talked about this earlier, about Wizards of the Coast wants to make Magic the Gathering players more diverse. And they wanted to base it off of, I'm going to butcher this, they wanted to base it off their Pro Tour. Like, they wanted their Pro Tour to be more diverse, right?
Oh, no. Are we doing like some affirmative action?
Right. So that was the immediate response, was like, was that. And so then the people who were against, so there are people like, we don't want to be affirmative action, right? And then there are people like, oh, you're racist because you don't want affirmative action in Magic the Gathering. And I was like, both you motherfuckers shut up. Listen. It is not, so Wizards, as long as Wizards makes the game accessible to all people of color, because we know African Americans are usually on the lower end of the economic spectrum. Magic the Gathering isn't a cheap card game, either in its physical or electronic form. It's not cheap, right? So right off the bat, that excludes a lot of African Americans from wanting to play your game. And so if they make it more accessible, that's fine. Like, I don't want them to go into the black community and give out Chandra Torch Defiance and like Hearted Kieran and fucking Nicobolas cards. Like, no, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to figure out how to make game just a little bit cheaper.
Where y'all starting first with these free card hands? I was so up.
Right, but and so my thing was, make it accessible. If you make it 100% accessible, and African Americans still don't, if your diversity doesn't go up, you don't get more African Americans, that's not your problem. Black folk just don't want to play your game. Like,
right,
end it there. Like,
and this parallels to Google and even possibly Riot. It's like, how many girls truly want to work at Riot Games? How many girls are even interested in working in the video game industry?
Right.
Anyway, like, you always have to ask, like, because one of the things that article brings up a lot is the percentage split. That, like, oh, there's about like 80% men, 20% women. That's probably right. Like, when you look at like the gaming culture, and I should double check that study to see what they say the general breakdown is anyway. 80-20 sounds like it's probably on point for just the gaming community, period.
Right.
And then when you take things like, it's more often found, you normally find women in social-based jobs because they like to be social. They want to talk. They want to be with people. And then in a lot of tech realms, that's not the case so much.
Mm-hmm.
You're more solo. So that's even less reason for girls that do like gaming to not want to be in a gaming position.
Right.
So when you always knock, like, I don't know what percentage these people want. They want more girls to be in tech positions at game companies that like to play games.
Right.
like
that's like,
what are you talking about?
So another example, the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah,
is notoriously bad about minorities or people of color, I guess.
sure.
People of color being in the field, right? And so when
Yeah,
I was going for biochemistry, they were there was a the field was giving out scholarships. Like, are you black? Are you in one of these fields? Here's money, right? Here you go.
yeah,
And my idea was that doesn't help the problem. You're only catching people who already were going to go in the field in the first place, which are already
right.
captured in that percentage. You're not
Sure.
capturing the people who
Don't know that this is a option
exactly,
viable for them to take.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
what you're missing. Um, and um, I
Oh,
think
that's going to get me on the whole thing. Sorry. No, no, that echoes one of my general thoughts about the black community at large.
hmm
Is that not to go into a whole other thing, but that there's still a lot of places in like low income like black communities that don't realize all the things they could do and they could be because they don't have that kind of exposure. Like to know that that can be the case.
right,
When I was younger, and I still think the black community holds itself back in a variety of ways, honestly. But one of the things I remember is that when I was in school, um, the question was, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And pretty much all the men said they want to be either A, someone in sports. So they want to be the next Michael Jordan or the next basketball player, or they want to be the next NFL player,
right.
or they wanted to be a rapper. And that was it. And why? Because that's what they are exposed to the most. When
hmm
they see black people in professional positions, that's what they see the most.
Yep.
So it's literally just you going out there and saying, you can do this too. It's literally like I was about to break into Captain Planet right there, honestly. Be a scientist. You can be one
Oh
too.
my God. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we need that
Yeah.
just so
No.
they know because they don't see it, and that's why I think things like Shark Tank with Damon being on there, the guy who the CEO of Fubu for a long time. Like that's so important. They're like, oh man, black people can be super rich, powerful, and wealthy, and not be a football player or a
Right.
rapper.
Right.
And I think that goes across the board, whether it's science and math for girls or just any of that kind of stuff, and video game stuff.
Right. And that's what I want to loop back to is the Riot's hiring process. While it may be 80-20 or whatever their split was, right? While that may
Yeah.
seem like they're okay, I will be honest. Their hiring practice does borderline like sexist, just the way they treated them, right? Um,
Yeah, in those stories, yeah.
right. But even if they weren't as sexist, their percentage of females and people of color would still be relatively low because they're only
Right.
capturing people that already have a propensity to be in that market. They're not catching
Right.
the people on the outskirts and trying to
Right.
capture that one. That field takes more work.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're trying to get in there and tell them, that degree you're going for to be a veterinarian. Nah, you want to be a writer. But
Right.
I love animals. We've got characters in League of Legends that are animals. Like it's just like it's that's all diversity and inclusion can be. Is the
hmm
company being as forthright and as open about being accepting of whoever the hell that's interested. And
hmm
that's it. All these other like campaigns and these ridiculous things where we're going far above and beyond what we do to get minorities to join is just way too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And will most likely get you called out to be just social justice warriors or excluding white people or whatever craziness backlash you're going to get.
Yeah, that entire Google thing, for example, like that was weird, and that's another entire
Uh,
story, and that's another discussion.
man.
But like, I feel bad for Google because like they mean well, but I can see
Yes.
where that guy was coming from when he says you're not racist. God, you're excluding white people for the sake of diversity. And in on one level, I can see where he's coming from. Because at some point in time, you can become the demon that you're trying not to be by trying to force
Sure.
diversity. You know what I mean? Because by forcing diversity, that means you have to sometimes make um, not the least not the least optimal the least optimal choice when hiring, and sometimes that may be a good thing, and sometimes that may be a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, because this is gonna go on a tangent, but I don't care anymore. Like, I would much rather be hired because of my ability, not because
Yeah.
of my color or my culture, because that devalues my talent. That devalues what I have to
Right.
offer the company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a shitty thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, or it's a bonus. We hired that nice brown kid from the city. He's actually a good worker. Surprise!
Right. But then you get
Win-win.
but then you get to the point where it's like, I hate those brown people because they don't work. Except for Maurice. He's the only brown person that does work.
He's
So,
the good
all right,
one.
he's the good one.
He's the good one. I've heard that plenty of times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I agree. Like that's all they can do. It's just again, if you want diversity, be open to it. Let them know that every sexuality, religion, whatever, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a certain level of proof is in the pudding too, right? Which I think sometimes these companies kind of over push a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a great example of that on Shameless. If you ever watched that show, it's
Uh-uh.
a really good show that's about these like Caucasian family with deadbeat parents, where the kids take care of the household. It's really funny, and they're south like South Chicago, so
Mm-hmm.
they're like poverty stricken kids. But it shows how these kids persevere and take care of themselves in this rough lifestyle where they don't have a lot of dreams or aspirations, and
Right.
their parents are worst case scenarios of what you could be in life. Um, but there's a part where the family feels good about themselves because um, it's funny and cute. I mean, the wife, the mother had cheated uh, with a black man and had a very, very, very clearly black child, but the dad raised them anyway.
Yeah.
So they have like that one, minority kid brother, but he gets older where he goes to school, and the dad, who's kind of like this swindler, he's bad, but he's manipulative and he's a realist. He uses his son's race as a means to increase the diversity at the school and let him in to be enrolled because they want more people of color because
Right,
he
right.
noticed that. So he's like, how can you say this school is inclusive when there's no one like my son here?
Right.
And for them, they're like, how dare you? And let him in. And then from then on, it was funny because there's this segment where every time the kid is in class, they're like, can we bring him out here real quick? He would just be asked to leave class, and he'd ask him, playtime, go have fun. And it was always when there was a tour of the school so that the other families could see we're diverse. Here's the one black child. It's a good show. It's
Oh
a
my
great
god.
show.
What's it called again? Shameless?
Shameless.
Oh my
Yeah, it's like
god.
HBO Showtime. Showtime, I think actually. Yeah, it's really
Oh,
funny.
that's
But like
hilarious.
it does these things where here's this guy playing on the strength of this scenario
Yeah.
and how that school to be considered diverse to wear that badge takes this kid out of his classes where he should be learning just to prop him up as a diversity tool
Yeah.
for other rich white people who want their kid to be near someone from the ghetto who's probably more harmless than the average run of the mill black, right? So it's very well done, and it's very true. And I do think a lot of these companies kind of die on that sword.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of dying on this badge of diversity or inclusion to do
Yeah.
these kind of But at the same time, again, it's about exposure. If the school claimed that and there were no children of color there, it would be an immediate like smack,
Right.
Because you're like, none of these kids wanted to go here. You must not let it, like, you know. So it's like this. That has to be road essentially.
Yeah.
Where you gotta show, and there's gotta be a splash of chocolate or spice in there somewhere to be legit. But if you don't have any, you're probably filthy racist scum. And
Right.
That's literally the line we ride nowadays.
Or if you have too many blacks, then you're considered a social justice warrior, and like now you're too diverse.
And you hate being white. That's why you don't hire other whites. I've heard that too. I've heard someone say that. Like, what's with all these white people hating being white? It's okay to. Actually, I think that was Bill Maher. Maher actually said that. Like, all these white people hate white, like it's wrong to be white or something. And I'm like, you know, some of them do act like that, actually. There are some of those white folks who are like, don't you just hate white people? I'm like, you're white. Yeah, but not me. Those white people.
Those white people.
Those white people. Like, all right, whatever, you know. But like, there's this image that a lot of, I think, these big companies want to be. And I, like you said with Google, I think they try. It's just you can't force a whole gender to be into this field more than they are.
Yeah.
And that's why Shark Tank. That's why almost every Shark Tank product that comes through about either explaining science or math to minorities or women instantly gets picked up. Like, you want an instant deal on Shark Tank? Make a toy that gets girls into coding. Done. Picked up automatically. Nice. But like, even then, that's the same kind of thing where it's like, we need more girls in science or math or coding or tech or something.
Yeah.
And you got to teach them from the start that it's okay for them to be. And that's why I like the toy idea, because again, it starts off with like, what's deemed good toys for girls, and it's usually not video games.
Yeah.
You know, so giving them toys that help them grow and learn about this thing and have an enjoyment of it, so it's a dream or a desire at a younger age, is what's going to dictate more women being interested in that field later. Not just corralling a bunch of women into an open house and being like, look, gaming. Oh, you don't play any game? Well, you can't work here.
Right.
You know.
And I guess the most... to wrap it back around to the Riot thing, I'm really disappointed because during Pride, both in the EU and in the NALCS, they made it a point to... Well, not a... So... It was kind of subtle at first, because I think on the EU LCS, Shox, she wore like a rainbow pin or whatever, but they never explained like it was Pride Day, right? And then like I think on the NA LCS, so you know when they're showing the game, like the in-game stuff, and they have the lower thirds, just like the stats and shit like that.
Was it rainbow?
It was a rainbow like Riot fist, right? And I was like, okay, that's cute. And then on one hand, I'm like, okay, that's cute. But then on the other hand, I'm like, are you trying to pander to me? You know, which is a whole nother fucking conversation. But it surprises me that the company, with what the article paints as how this company works, is in stark contrast to what they show, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it's about branding.
Right, but how can the core be so rotten and the outside looks so pristine? You know what I mean? Because at some point in time, like, do the casters know what's going on? What about the females, Shox and Frostkern? Like, or some of the women who give the after game interview. Like, there's two of them, one in the EU, one in the NA. Like, do they not know what's going on? Not even, okay, let's exclude the females. Like, what about the guys? Like, at some point in time, a caster has to know this is wrong. Like, where's the breakdown? Where is it being hidden? You know what I mean? Like, because something or someone is hiding it.
Yeah. The question is, how pervasive is the issue? Because this was kind of like my problem when I was first reading the article, because there's a few points in the article where she's going over all these stories
Mm-hmm.
and she's talking to all these women. But then there are several points where she says, and there were women who were senior employees who said they've never personally seen these things.
Yeah.
So like there's these outliers, right? And it's hard to know if they're outliers, if it's more okay than we think. Like the problem with things like this is it's like, first off, it opens itself up to just flaming because we don't get any. What's the best way to put it? We get very few true heart details where there's like names involved or locations, something like that, where we can follow the line back to who it was or who did this and figuring out where it lies. Because like I was saying, because when she said there's a part, the beginning of the article talks about this talent agent or talent acquirer named Lacey, who worked there for 3 years, and she could never get a woman into a leadership position. And then shortly later in the article, it talks about women
in leadership positions. Yeah.
So then I'm kind of like, well, what happened? If it's as pervasive and as oppressive as you say, how did these women even ever get here? And of course, that's 1,001 things, from they're super hot, or oh, they're hot and they have merit, or oh, there was networking and they knew someone and got like, there's so many things, but it's hard to really get to the nitty gritty of it.
Right.
If these women do exist, not only do they exist, they don't see these things or deal with these things. And then, okay, well, why don't they? Are they the type of girls I mentioned that are like playing League until 4 a.m. with other coworkers bitching about how someone's feeding?
Right.
And she feels right like a bro. So she fits perfectly into the culture they want. Therefore, there's no question about her. Or is it something else? Like, and without knowing these things, it's going to be hard for us to understand the entire issue.
Right.
Because on the right, people are going to say this is some bullshit. On the left, it's going to be like, burn riot at the stake for its sexism. And then we don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Because this just rolls off. And then this whole time you have this culture of men or employees who are doing the same stuff they've always been doing for the last 8, 9, 7, 6 years. They've been doing it.
Right.
And nothing changes. And, like you said, who knows what the diversity with that much Caucasian cisgendered whiteness going on, who knows how they feel about gay people?
Yeah.
There could be a variety of horrible gay shit happening that we don't know. But there's a rainbow fist on the screen, so it's A-okay with me.
Right.
And it's funny because you brought that up, because I put Riot on blast because when it was Pride Month, and I didn't know they did this for the tournaments, but they had released 2 kind of Pride celebration things. One was a little tiny icon. They had the little animals called Poros. But they were rainbow colored, but they weren't really rainbow colored. Like every color of the rainbow wasn't present. There was just a variety of colors.
Right.
So I was like, y'all can't even give me rainbow damn animals, right? Like all you needed was one Poro that was a full spectrum rainbow. But instead, it's like this like hodgepodge icon that honestly, if you looked at it, you wouldn't even knew it was Pride related.
Yeah.
That's how cryptic the design was. And then they also gave you the same, where if you bought the icon, I think it gave you, when you load in, they do these loading effects now, where there'll be like a beam of light or something coming from the sky or some sort of effect. And that would be like a rainbow beam shining on you for like the 1 second you load into Summoner's Rift. Right? And I was just kind of like, this is some bullshit. So then later, because I got into it with this guy named Tony who plays League, and he eventually posts that also at the time they donated money to something. I think they donated, it's probably like 1 in 10, because everyone donates to 1 in 10. Nothing wrong with 1 in 10, but Jesus Christ. And it was kind of one of those things where it's very different than Smite, who I bashed Riot over, because Smite, everything about Smite is transparent. Now, honestly, they could hate gay people deep down in their offices too. But like, for instance, when they first did their first Pride thing, they specifically said, this is for gay pride. So, like for instance, there's a Battle Right has like a sword that's a rainbow. So the first thing you think is, oh, this is a Pride sword, but it just I think the name of it says like colorful sword.
Yeah.
But on Smite, if there's a rainbow and that's your icon, it literally says gay pride. They are beyond transparent.
Right.
Not to mention, they release like skins that are like super gay pride-ish.
Oh my god. My friend showed me the centaur one, the daddy centaur.
Perfect. There was not a single shred of them being, and what's funny about that is that not only is it beyond gay,
yeah, it is extra.
But it shows that not only is it gay, but they understand culture with the references. Like there's a lot of drag queen and RuPaul Drag Race references,
right?
Slay and all of that. Like it really goes to show that like whoever made this and who knows who did it. There's something about not only them going that far, especially if they knew nothing about it to begin with, which I don't think so. Someone knew about this. Someone was like, we need to have a gay-ass unicorn that spits out gay verbiage and watches RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right.
And I feel like some of my friends was like, hell yeah. And like they already like it and embrace it, right?
Right.
And that goes way further than this cryptic shit where the representation is for a second. Or it's limited time.
Yeah.
Or it's a giant donational thing. They have created icons and skins that are in the game forever. And those are testaments to, at least from what I can tell, their care for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like, short-lived kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, fuck Riot, this shit fucking sucks. Because I can be like that. Fuck, you're accepting us now. This is some shitty ways to do it. But to me, it was just kind of like, that they went so extra for me. And that's why I always spend way too much money on their skins, even though I don't play the game like that.
God,
I'll come back in 3 months and buy like $1,000 in skins. Like, yeah.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, this is a tangent. Well, kind of. Now I'm on the. Should I even watch League of Legends anymore? Right? Because of. And I know I said I'd give them not benefit of the doubt, but I will allow them to explain themselves, right?
Sure.
But now I'm debating if I want to continue watching the NA and the EU LCS because by watching them on Twitch or YouTube, that gives them money essentially. They can
Sure.
go to their ad revenue and be like, oh, we had this many viewers, and they get that kind of ad money, right? I think not Jimmy John's, Jersey Subs. And oh fuck! Jersey Subs and State Farm are two really big. Oh my god! They support the NALCS, right? It's the State Farm Analyst Desk and the Acer Predator Replay, right? And so now
I'm tripping that we're here now with esports.
I love it. Like it's about time they started to get legitimate, right? We got over the Major League Gaming and all that dumbassery. Now we're on the road to being accepted as legitimate, right? But anyway, it's gonna. I want to see if sponsorship. That's the word I couldn't find. I want to know if they will drop their sponsorship because of what's happened recently. And now I'm on the fence on like, do I want to watch them? Like, I'm interested in them. But now the company looks really fucking shady, and I don't know if I want to give them my time and give them the money by watching the series.
Right.
But I do have Smite. It was free for Xbox One for like a month or something.
Nice.
So I got all the characters and shit.
Smite.
We should play sometime.
I love Smite. They did it for me with that stuff. Like just that freaking unicorn man. And it's not the first thing they've done.
Yeah.
But like you could tell like they made that character not meaning to be offensive, because someone could easily take it as being offensive because he's so feminine and all this other stuff. But no, they had fun making him. It's
funny you mentioned that because I was on that line because I didn't really know what Smite was when my friend showed me that. And there's another one where there's a pimp or something from like the 70s. That's fucking hilarious.
Oh my God. Freaking Agni. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. They got
It rained.
Right. And so
it rained. I was like, oh Jesus.
And so there are things where it's like the left in me says this is offensive, right? Because I can see a world in I can see a world in which someone will be offended by the gay stallion, or like the stereotypes they play upon.
Sure.
I can see someone getting upset by that. But the other side of me is like, this shit is fucking hilarious. Like they
It's
went
hilarious.
like I appreciate they went there. Like they didn't pussyfoot around. They didn't half-ass it. They said, "Fuck it, we're going in," and just fucking bulldoze
Yeah.
through that.
Full
Like,
blown.
yeah,
This is the gayest shit you're gonna see in a video game. And yes, it is.
right.
It absolutely is. 100%. All the way to him buying items and saying, "Does this make my butt look big? I need a spank." This bitch is just beyond,
It is.
just
It,
beyond
it,
infinity and beyond gay.
and that's why I lean toward it being okay, because it's so out there. It's so like just
Yeah.
outrageous. And yeah, it could go terribly awry. Like they can make one misstep and it all comes crashing down. But they're walking that line and they're doing a pretty fucking good job.
Yeah. And it's a risk too, because if it was anything cryptic, it doesn't have
Yeah.
that kind of impact. It's like the whole kind of like blending, and we want to be supportive, but we really don't want people to know so they can't make us think about it if
Right.
they hate it. And they're not doing that. They're like, this rainbow flag is for gay pride. We want the people who play this game to use this flag if they are proud and want to show the state their state of proudness on this game that they
Yeah.
didn't have to or wouldn't have had the chance to. And they can
Hmm.
buy the skin in support of it that represents their culture, the fun aspects of it.
Yeah.
I just give them incredible amounts of kudos for that. And I feel like any company, like you take that stand and you go there.
Yeah.
And then,
Exactly.
we're in a state where just a rainbow alone puts that now, where Doritos can make a rainbow bag of chips, and then there's 1,001 people saying, "What about cancer?" Cancer is so much more important than gay people. Like that's all it takes nowadays. That's one of those things where I guess we can probably argue this maybe like next Pride Month or something like that, because there's so much hate on corporate sponsors at Pride, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, they are taking their risk being here. You don't understand, but whoever runs that social media page that posts this pride photo of them here is going to have a rough time.
I mean,
You know?
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'll give you that.
Yeah, but I just love the way they did it. It was just so much better. But yes, Riot ended up putting out a bunch of money to, I think, 1 in 10, which is always great.
Yeah.
It's always good that they put their money where their mouth is, but it's also the easy thing
It's
to do,
right,
which
right.
is throwing money at it. But yeah, that was a long. Where were we before? Oh yeah, I was like, where were we? Where were we before all this? Oh, but you feeling like you don't know if you should
Oh yeah, yeah.
represent them.
Yeah.
Did, it's one of those things where you should look at all aspects of what supporting them means, and to me, it's always about if they are doing something. And
Right.
the prime issue right now is, are they investigating or looking back through these scenarios where these women made these complaints, and if those are being reviewed and are going to be handled differently?
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, if they have a diverse department that's trying to do these things to make it better, cool. But the problem is when these things came to your attention, and this is the other problem too, because while she might do that, where is this happening in this location?
Right.
What supervisor is this? Is there this supervisor that's like under this certain subsection of people that this is always a problem at? Like how widespread is it through the company
Right.
overall as a whole? And are there certain individual people we can just take out of the equation and suddenly it's a 60% better place to be because we found the two really sexist people?
Right.
Because I'm sure there are like hardcore, deep down sexist people there. Most likely.
Right.
I mean, considering that they're hardcore gamers and we're weird about women anyway, like that's the other like like there's so many layers to this. If you are hiring hardcore nerds, there's a lot of issues with women. Like, inherently.
Right.
with them. So it's just like there's just so much. But are they going to do something?
Mm-hmm.
So either you can stop watching them now and wait to hear it, or keep watching it until you find out that they're going to sweep this rug, which I feel like is going to be the primary response
Yeah.
to this whole thing. Is they're going to just like, we are doing these things now. Don't worry, we're good. And then you'll never hear about it again. But I'm also of the proof is in the pudding kind of thing, where it's like, if there are girls here that are being represented well, that are getting exposure, like the commentators, like Sparks and the one girl who I feel like is probably a lesbian for sure.
Frosker?
I feel like she's, yeah, I feel like that's a lesbian girl right there.
Now we're gonna get hate mail. Thanks.
No, I love the fact that she's a big old lesbian.
A big old lesbian.
Well, I mean, she always wears male gendered clothing. More often than not, she wears suits and ties,
right,
or vests. And I feel like she only has floral patterns on because they force her to remind people she's a girl. I feel like they do that because she's wearing a damn floral pattern. I'm like, I don't feel like she wants to wear a floral pattern.
What there was during Worlds last year, she wore, it wasn't zebra striped, but it was like a very black and white outfit, and I was like, yes.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, but I feel like it either doesn't happen to them, which means women do, in some capacity, do get respect there. And how do you take their scenarios that were positive and flow it out through the rest of the company? Or they've managed to, I mean, this reminds me, I think I'll make this a thing where if there's a good example in the show, I think I'm going to talk about it. What is it? F is for Family. Have you seen that yet?
No, you keep telling me I need to watch it, but I haven't yet.
That's a good one. So it's kind of like Netflix's version of Family, but it's a lot like deeper and darker a little bit. But there's this thing where the housewife goes and gets a job, and it's one of those like door-to-door Tupperware sales, because it's like dated back in time. So Tupperware sales were all the rage. Right. And she's working at this company, and there's this woman that's above her, and all the men love her. But all the men treat the wife like a woman that knows nothing. Right. But they respect her boss. And why? Because she plays to all their male antics. She goes in there and the guy's like, your tits are looking small today. And she's like, not as small as your balls. When was the last time your wife felt those things? Are they hiding up in your cooter? Like, she just goes in, and all the men just laugh. They're just, she got you again. You suck. You got no balls. Right. And it's because she just was like, this is the freaking culture. This is the stupid ass thing I'm in. And either A, I'm going to endure it and make this money, or I'm just going to live it and stop hating on it and just do it. Where the wife was like, this is uncomfortable. This is weird. And then, of course, her boss was like, just mess with them. Treat them how they treat you. Like, call them out. And she started doing that. And they're like, And then as she did that, they respected her and her decisions more. Right. And then she'd be like, this feels weird. I'm uncomfortable. This isn't like me. I don't like this. And, she would flounder in it, and she would go right back into that role where they would ignore her until she throws some zing or talk like, call a guy a pussy or whatever. And they're like, what did you say that idea was again?
What?
That's literally how.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like she tried to give an idea, and they would like dismiss her, and then she would like throw some zing at someone, and they're like, okay, so what was that idea? Like, they're like re-interested. And I feel like that's probably a lot of what's going on here too, is male-dominated workplace with a lot of stupid guys that don't understand women. Like, I feel is unrealistic and far-fetched for when there's that many layers going into this shit pile that suddenly we're going to make Riot a great place for women to work. There's just absolute. That's why I said the only real way is to clean house. Like
Yep.
I'm telling you, you clean it out, you make these new rules, you put this new mantra in, and you like hire people based off of that mission statement. Because otherwise, I don't think this is happening. And I have a funny feeling that the women who probably did move up did that.
Right.
They lived up that bro culture. They were just like, I'm going to do it. If moving up means I have to stay up to 3 a.m. playing ARAM with my coworkers and my boss, so be it. And
Right.
we all do make those kind of sacrifices sometimes, depending on the culture of our work, where
Mm-hmm.
we have a mixer with our coworkers, even though we don't really want to. But we
Right.
know it has that networking power to get me different places.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the whole scenario is just beyond nuanced in so many aspects that there's no clear way of getting this fixed. But the biggest issue again is how supervisors respond to the sexual harassment, the allegations, the male genitalia pics everywhere. I
Yeah.
was like, how many do I need to work here? How much dick can I see at work? Because they said female and male employees just seeing dick pics
Right.
everywhere. I'm like, this sausage fest. What's going on in here? But that's the first thing they need to do
Mm-hmm.
is like when it's said, listen, react responsibly. Don't blame the women because there's a lot of that.
Right.
You say you felt bad about that. Did you ever think about why you feel bad that you didn't like that dick pic? Like, because I got the dick pic and I was like, dude, that's your dick. You got the dick pic and you were like, I don't know if I should work here. Sounds like a personal issue. Like, so,
Yep.
so like I said, but that's first and foremost is that part. I think everything else is probably okay, and I'll probably still support and watch them because there is the aspect of I do want esports to be even bigger than it is.
Yeah.
And the game is still fun. Supporting the players is a big part because if you start getting to the point where you're hurting Riot, then you also impact the teams and the players and the people who have made this their lives.
Well, I
to be
mean,
good at this game.
maybe it should, because maybe this empowers the players to step up and say, "What the fuck, Riot? What are you doing?" Like, you know what I mean? Because if Riot all of a sudden, because if Riot goes down, the teams go down. So the teams have an investment in Riot staying afloat. You know what I mean?
Maybe, possibly, but I don't know because right now, like the pro teams are always across. Um, I mean, first off, I don't like using a slippery slope kind of argument, but I feel like definitely applies because I feel like this is probably something happening at like every major game company. Like, I just don't think their stories have come out yet. That's the way I see it. It took 9 years for Riots to come out. I feel like this probably happens a little bit at probably BioWare. This probably happens a smidget at Valve. Like, I feel like this is... So, I mean, if we want to start not supporting game companies for this shit, we might have to go deep. But what I was going to say in particular with Riot is that they would most likely just filter those pros out to different games. So, because Echo Fox has a team in like everything, and,
Right.
What's his face from Hearthstone, Tempo Storm, same thing.
Yeah.
He was thinking about making a team for League. So I think they'll just end up going to Heroes of Storm. So, I would prefer for them to keep playing it, but there's so much to do in this department that Riot might get the smack for this. And I mean, maybe it's good if they do, because maybe it'll make a ripple effect that makes the other companies go, so before we have our scandal, let's get these women in here.
Let's clean our house first.
Shit.
Let's clean our house before mom and dad come home.
Right? Because it'll be coming. But, again, this is one of those things where we went after Riot because Riot is kind of one of the biggest in this
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to always say how it'll be impacted or not because a lot of people don't personally. Personally a lot of the gamers are not personally invested in this because again the majority is ran by the oppressor.
Right. Right.
So it takes all the caring feminist men out there who care about girls' rights to be like, I'm making a stand and not watching this. While the other 80%, 78% of them all still support, still spend money, still play the games, to watch the stuff. So it's one of those things where it ends up being a very personal choice on this and how you feel about it and what it does for you versus the impact it actually truly makes on the company. Not saying that as a unified front you couldn't, but I question how big that front is. Yeah. And are we operating with a full board here or are most of the people taken? And we got like the queen left and a few pawns. Trying to pull out this movement, right? So that's all. And that's not to say that and that's not to discredit that not supporting them is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Because it won't do anything. Like that's not saying that either. But it just overall it makes me wonder. So again, it boils down to you personally. Same thing with like freaking Chick-fil-A, man. Same thing.
True,
you know,
yeah.
All the games that like don't like Chick-fil-A because of what they stand for. Then you got the ones that say, well, the Chick-fil-A at my house is independently owned, therefore, you know, they don't hate gays. I know that owner. He's cool. He likes us. He let us kiss there. And versus, well, they still support the big companies, so my money is still going to that kind of stuff. Anyway, right. Maybe Chick-fil-A doesn't donate that money anymore. So should we either A, support them now because they no longer do it because they've changed, or B, never support them because they used to do it?
Yeah.
To see me not eating there because they used to donate to the Uganda movement that wanted to kill gays. They literally were supporting like the kill gays movement in Uganda.
Right.
So I was like, literally me buying a chicken sandwich means that some percentage of my money goes to killing gay black folks. You know, I can't do that, y'all. Like this is just too much now.
Right.
So there's a lot of like, and I think this even trickles into like the election and stuff. Like, what does this personally mean for you in this stance that you're taking versus implying that your actions have any big range impact, unless you're a bitch that didn't vote. Because as a unified front, y'all fuck shit up. But it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that stuff in a long time, and I haven't played League in months, or even in months. Yeah, I haven't played it regularly in years, so. It's kind of whatever to me in that case.
I think I'm
gonna support them now.
I think I'm gonna start playing Smite. Give that a try.
I love Smite, but Smite's weird. I loved it because it reminded me of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like when I watched it visually, I'm like, this feels like playing Arena in World War because it was like fast paced and lots. So I love Smite.
Yeah.
But like I said, they're transparent.
Yeah.
But they haven't done something like that in a while, though. So you could argue that they've did their dues. They're done. But when it's something that's a testament like that, that's there forever. I mean, all they have to do is say, hey, it's Pride Month, get a discount on the Chiron unicorn skin or something like that. And I mean, there's lots of other there's a lot of other gay culture stuff and a lot of their other skins that aren't so pronounced, but you know it when you see it. That it's enough for me that they're still having fun and they're still playing with ideas.
Yeah.
They have some of the coolest skins. Like, I feel like 80% of their skins are just like amazing if they're not recolors and you just want to buy them all. Like they do these plushie skins that are so cute. They take like a character and they make them a plushie.
Oh,
it's so cute. Like there's Gannett. So speaking of something you should be offended by in Smite, which I'm sure people were. Well, I mean, when Smite first came out, there was the whole offense about the gods being in the game. That was number one. And then, of course, at first it was about the gods even being in the game. Then it was about how they look, especially when they were like sexualized. But the thing that makes me laugh the most about stereotypes is how you can take a god from one culture and totally, completely change their culture to be something else. Like, there's the god Chang'e. She's like the god of the moon or something, or I forgot what she's the god of, but she's like Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
They gave her this freaking like Mexican fiesta dress. And like she's running around and she's going, Dios mío. Yeah. And I'm just like,
oh no. Oh no.
And I'm just like, oh my God. Well, I knew we were already right in the line of possible disrespect here, but I think this really just takes the cake when we completely take the guy out of their entire cultural roots and then slap on the stereotypes of another
culture, right?
So that's okay, Smite. You still get my money, but I didn't question these things because that was just too much for me.
Adios míos. Oh my God.
Adios mío. I think she says that when she gets killed.
Oh my God.
That's her death sound. Dios mío.
I'm done. All right, we should wrap it up. We're hitting the 2-hour mark. All right, let's plug some stuff. So if you want to send us an email, you can send it to 2cupsofblackcoffee@gmail.com. That's 2cupsofblackcoffee, all one word, @gmail.com. We don't have a Facebook yet. We're going to do a couple more videos, do a couple more podcasts, get that under our belt, and then release it there. Odds are it'll be facebook.com/2cupsofblackcoffee, unless that's already taken for reasons. We'll figure that out later on.
There's probably some coffee company literally named. So, you know.
We will be streaming on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel. Search 2 Cups of Black Coffee. We don't have our custom URL yet. We get a custom URL when we're at 100 subscribers. So smash that like button, punch the bell. I don't fucking know what YouTubers say, but do the thing that subscribes to us.
Do a dance to the gods.
Put on a Mexican fiesta hat and say Dios míos.
And I. Every time it doesn't show up, eventually
oh my
YouTube
God.
will get you.
Oh my God. We have so you can watch us live on YouTube. We'll be streaming there. If you want to ask us questions during the stream, you can come to our YouTube channel and watch us. We stream every Thursday at 7:30. That is the goal. If we hit it every week, if that's another question.
I was like, let's start giving them the disclaimers.
Right.
That's what we're shooting for.
That's what we're shooting for. Thursdays at 7:30. If you want to join us join in the conversation, ask us questions, join in the chat, or we'll have a Discord group set up. We're getting it set up, or it is set up.
It's already set up.
Oh, it's already set up? Okay.
Yeah, we've got it ready to go. The only thing we don't have set up is the sub channels for different stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll probably get that set up soon. I'll probably do ones for just generic questions, maybe topics you want us to cover. By all means, like I said, me personally, I like to be right. So obviously, if we say anything that seems like it's off or wrong or we miss something, just go ahead and post the source and just let us know. We'll review it, and if it's important enough or it makes sense, or if it's horribly wrong, either A, we'll adjust what we said, give our new opinions on it, so we can give updated responses, debunk maybe what it was if it doesn't quite align or make sense. You know, we're pretty flexible in terms of very versatile.
Yep. And again, you can send those either to the Discord group or to our
email.
Thank you. 2cupsofblackcoffee@gmail. I was like Hotmail. No one uses Hotmail anymore, and it's not even called Hotmail anymore. It's called something else. Right. Anyway, that's not the point. 2cupsofblackcoffee@gmail.com.
Oh, and then you should let them know that you'll probably be streaming soon, hopefully.
Oh my God! So I'm gonna make a really big side tangent here. So did you hear about the update to Magic the Gathering Arena?
Oh no, what's happening?
They're cutting competitive play.
Why?
Because they claim it was the lowest populated of the modes, so they're cutting best of threes. So it's only going to be free
best of ones.
It's only going to be free play best of ones and quick play or quick constructed best of ones. No more best of threes.
Whereas there a lot of people just fighting the same people over and over. Is that the problem, or
No, so the problem with construct. So let me back up for a minute. This is where the show pretty much ends. If you have no interest in Magic the Gathering online, go ahead and close the video. Go make yourself a sandwich. Do whatever. If you're interested, stay tuned. All right. I just want to make that disclaimer. So there is free play, which is best of ones, but it's free. You can play whatever you want, right? And in that
right?
mode, it bases your deck off of its power ranking, and it puts it up against other decks of similar power ranking, right?
Right.
Then there's quick constructed, which you pay for with gold or in gems, and it's
It's the
uh,
draft, right? Oh
no,
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 it's
no,
not.
no, no. It's
Yeah.
first to 7 wins or 3 losses, whichever comes first.
Right, and that's with the deck you created. Yeah.
Right, and in that one, you're only put up against other people that have the same win-loss rate as you, up until you get to 7 or 3. Okay.
Right.
Constructed is the same mode, except you have a sideboard, and it's best of threes.
Yeah.
So it's just, everything else is the same as the other one, but it's a sideboard best of threes. That mode they're cutting.
That is a problem for so many reasons.
Exactly,
Because
exactly.
especially when you talk about the dreaded mana flood, mana curve problem, best of threes is supposed to alleviate that by
Yep.
giving the games more chances to not have that happen.
And what it does, best of threes also allows you to tune your deck with your sideboard. So if you're in an
Right.
unfavorable matchup, you can tune your deck to have a chance to come back in game 2 or game 3.
Right. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that's the lowest, too, right? Like there, because I mean, so many of us are still new, like, and we don't have the cards to make great decks, so we're not
Exactly.
putting them. We're not going to go into constructed not being ready for
Right.
what's out there,
So
especially when they get destroyed in free play by these crazy decks.
so here's my idea. I was going to do a day of constructed, that constructed queue, a day of quick queue, and a day of draft. Kind of get an over a well-rounded play style of Magic, right?
Sure.
The reason why I didn't do constructed was because you hit the nail on the head. I have kind of a meta deck with my hodgepodge of cards, right? It's a red
Yeah.
aggro. I don't like aggro, but it's what I got, right? So the
Yeah.
reason why I didn't do constructed was because I didn't have my sideboard, and I didn't want to burn wild cards on the sideboard playing a deck type that I may or may not like already off the bat.
With cards that may or may not rotate out in a month.
Right. So there's a lot of pain points before I get to the fact that I want to do it, right? So recently I said, you know what, fuck it. They're going to do another wipe. I'll get my gems back. Fuck it, let's go with it. And then they were like, oh, hey, Psych, we're cutting that. And I'm like, well, then I don't care anymore because, like, for me, I want to be a better Magic player. I wanted to go to the Grand Prix. I want to better myself. I like the competitive feel of Magic. If you're taking that away from me, why am I still on your platform? Like, yeah, I can do drafting, which works, okay,
Yeah.
but you're taking the one thing that I want to do. Why am I still on your platform at that point? Yeah, I can do free
Yeah.
play. There's a certain joy in free play that I like, but the overall goal of me wanting to be a better player is wrapped up in competitive play, and now you're not
Of
offering that
course.
anymore.
Yeah. And not to mention, if you're getting rid of constructed, which is typically because like who was I talking to? I was talking to a friend of mine about like the mana stream, mana flooding thing. But now, like the question is, who is Magic the Gathering Arena for?
Exactly,
Who
because
is it for?
I think the game is too complicated for new people.
Yeah.
And if you're hardcore, you're already playing Magic the Gathering online. That Excel looking ass, busted ass piece of shit. You're already playing that.
Yeah.
So you're getting this weird intersection of the two, which I think me and you kind of fall in that intersection. I think Wizards is lucky because we fall into that intersection where we like the
Yeah.
game, but we're not as competitive. We want to play something that looks like Hearthstone, but
Mm.
plays like Magic. So we fall into that section. But I think
Right.
honestly that section of the overall population of Magic is very, very small.
Sure. I concur.
Yeah. And
But now there's a problem because now it impedes upon our ability to go to a more devoted or a more committed frame of play in Magic if
Yeah.
Constructed is gone. Because even though I hated Hearthstone, I played Ladder.
Yeah.
Because there's something about progressing and making good deck and playing and getting better that was appealing. And that was the primary, most appealing part of Hearthstone, even though I disliked the game. And I would only do free play just to knock out my quests, because I usually had shitty decks or things that weren't really good. So I'm not taking them into Ladder. And then once my quests were done, it's back to Ladder.
Right.
And it's back to, building. So if we're at this point now where, like, that's not a choice, that's going to severely mess up a lot of things. And it also probably ruins the chance of getting the hardcore players of other games like Magic, not Magic, Hearthstone and stuff like that, that are all about, their audience is built upon their skill level and their deck creation abilities and the ability to replicate something that wins well out of a percentage of matches. Like all that extra stuff that really mattered. And not to mention, the thing that confuses me the most about that is one of the arguments for the potential of mana flooding, mana screwing, and the hard shuffle is for it to be as like to paper Magic as possible. Now you're telling me I can't play like a staple mode of the game. Oh, who is this game for? Like, I go back, who is this game for now? I don't even know. And if we're getting to this point where we're basing shit off of the amount of people in a pool of players we might as well just completely make Magic the Gathering its own freaking entity at this point. Or mode that's different than paper if we're not going to be like paper. So now Wizards, I need you to make up your mind now. Is this paper Magic? And you want to be like paper Magic as much as possible? Or is it a separate entity? Because if it's not going to be like paper and it's going to be a separate entity, then there's some other things that you can make that could actually make this game immensely popular. If you want to go that route. And as much as normal Magic people hate it, stuff like mana weaving and other stuff will probably grasp a whole chunk of Hearthstone players. Because there is not a single Hearthstone player that's coming over to this bitch being like, I can't play the game. I'm 8 turns in. I can't play shit. And having a good time.
Oh my god, there are so many complaints on the forums about mana flood and mana screw, which I get. But that mana base is so entrenched in how Magic works that we accept, like, there are safe valves like best of threes, for example, you mentioned. Land, being able to fetch for lands and do other things, other mana sources, right? So the game has evolved to accommodate for the safe falls of the mana base, right? But I see people all the time like, I always get land flooded, or no, someone's like, I get land screwed. Someone's like, post your deck. This bitch had like 15, 16 lands, and we were like, that may be your problem. You may want to increase that count by like 5 or 6, and you'd be good. And then they were like, oh my god, I gotta find this post. It was fucking hilarious. So he was complaining about being mana screwed. People show him the decks. They showed him that they were like, you got too few lands. Add more lands. His next response was, I don't need to add more lands because my deck fucking rocks and I'm beating people left and right. So then people were like, so what is it? Are you getting mana screwed or are you beating people's asses? Because both those can't be true at the same time.
Well, I mean, for someone who plays it with the right amount of land, I get my fair share of both still. But like, and it's not an impossibility. It does happen, but I think there was one time I have like 24 lands in my deck, and I was stuck on 2 lands for like 8 turns, and I was like, this kind of sucks. Well, like and I think the problem with mana flooding or mana screwing, and why there's such a high variance of people who say it's happening either way, it's probably based off of the length that they continue to play the game once it happens. Because the average person, if they're mana screwed for too long or mana flooded for too long, they'll just quit.
Oh yeah, they're scooping.
Because their options to play is done. So they'll just scoop. So we don't know when that next big card they needed was coming in the next 2 turns, or if they had 8 more lands coming. Yeah. All they know is that they had X number of turns of A or B happening, and now they're done. They couldn't play, so they gave up. And then I remember I was reading a bunch of stuff about it. There was a guy who was posting the opening hands. Mm-hmm. They did like 500,000 opening hands or something of like draft, to show that like mana screwing doesn't happen that often. And even that was bad on Wizards' part, because I was like, showing me the opening hand doesn't mean anything. Even if there's 3 lands in it, I could draw all monsters the next 12 turns and never go above the 3 lands. Or I can draw 20 more lands and never have another creature. So I was like, there was this one guy on the forum that was just like, fighting it out with everyone who hated mana weaving suggestions or land change suggestions. And he always kept saying that. And I'm like, you really think you're an intellectual here by posting that? And you don't understand how basically flawed that fucking idea is. But it's just,
and I get, so there's a point where like me and you understand, like across large numbers, across multiple hands or across multiple games, Mana Screw and Mana Flood are, assuming you've built your deck correctly and you've got the right mana curve associated with the right amount of lands, you have the right amount of fetches and blah, 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 blah. Mana Screw and Mana Flood is a rare thing, right? We across large games, right? But the problem is, in that moment, it's a feel-bad moment, right? In the moment...
Of course, that's what I mean.
Right.
And it can come in any part of the game. That's the other problem, too. And that's why I think this is such a bigger issue, because I could draw in the first few turns and have 6 lands, right? And that can be more than enough for my mana curve, unless I'm drawing creatures to use said mana curve, because now all I'm doing is drawing land.
Yeah.
And lands, and I need one of my creatures, and it's lands, and it's like, and that's kind of like the variance here, is that when that instance of screwing or flooding happens, it's immediately feel bad. Yeah. And I don't think most people survive the phase of it, whether it's 8/8 die because they couldn't play anything, whether due to flooding or they didn't have cards to play or not. But to me, if we're going to get rid of Constructed because of popularity, and now we can't have Constructed best of 3s to fix the mana problem, I think we need to make more adjustments now, because now you're getting to be like Hearthstone, because Hearthstone only has best of 1 unless you're actually in a real tournament.
Yep.
Right. So now it's kind of like, this thing is that's really going to rough up the game for me. And I think for a lot of people, if that variance can't be worked out through the normal mode.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's no competition. There's no way to climb. Like, your rank in free play probably means jack diddly.
Well, and there's apparently a graphical bug, and where, like, so every time I rank up, every time I lose ranks, I lose like an entire fucking circle and a half. But when I win, it's like, okay, really?
Well, I've had that happen too, and then the next thing I know, I load back in and I win, and the bar is way bigger than it just went to. And I just got more, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, like the ranking.
I think it happens.
The ranking system's all fucked up right now.
Yeah, or I think it happens the worst when you concede, and it takes your entire bar. Have you seen that? It's like, you piece of shit. It just removes your whole bar.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
God, that game. I love Wizards. I love you. I love Magic, but I really want to play Arena because it's a much better looking game than Magic the Gathering Online by leaps and bounds. I still want to stream it, But I think for that competitive thing that I want, I think I'll just play MTGO, like, and not stream it. Well, I guess I could stream it too. It just doesn't look as pretty, right? And if
No,
I
it
want to be,
doesn't.
and if I want to be competitive, that's actually the cheaper way to go. Because yeah, a deck may
Right.
cost me $300, but I can still sell that deck back for maybe half the cost and only be out 150, which is it. So I spend money, get to play the exact deck I want to play. Yeah, it may cost me $150, but if I spent that money in MTGA, there's no guarantee that I would have the deck that I want in the first place anyway.
This is true. Makes sense.
Yep. So that was a long ass tangent on
Right.
why my streaming thing may be up in the air right now.
Yeah. That might even be worth clipping for its own little thing.
I got the timestamp right here. I've been a professional. I'm timestamping
Boom.
this shit.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we're definitely at like 2 hours and 20 minutes now, if not
Yeah,
longer.
yeah. No, we're gonna cut it here. So if you stayed for that, thank you for listening and watching Two Cups of Black Coffee. This has been episode 2. I'm Mo. That's Alazar, and we thank you for joining us today. Hope to catch you soon.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.